All right. So today we have Dr. Robert Cook, right? All right. Now he actually sent me his this intro that you wrote. Usually I do the intros, but okay. Dr. Robert Cook, assistant professor in the College of Business and Technology at Northeastern Illinois University. I go there, you teach there. It's a great school.
We're not biased.
Yeah, we're not. I mean, I'm not biased whatsoever. I genuinely enjoy the school. But he got his PhD as well as his undergrad and master's in operations management from the University of Alabama. He now lives in Chicago with his two dogs and cat and will soon be joined by his fiancee in his free time. Jokingly, he doesn't have a lot, but if he ever finds any, he enjoys being outdoors, is a huge foodie, particularly bread, wine, and coffee, and enjoys reading and listening to music, but not at the same time. Yeah, that's a pretty good intro, man.
Thanks. I'm ashamed to say that took me at least 15 minutes to put together for 3
Really?
sentences. Yeah.
I mean, I get it because you kind of want to like toot your own horn a little bit, but not be cheesy, right?
Yeah, well, and it's hard to say. It's like an interview question that people get all the time. It's, but tell me about yourself. Like,
Yeah.
well, what do you want to know? Well, I can, play a mean nose whistle. Like, okay, no, I don't think they want to know that. So, well, it's hard to think about what your audience will think is interesting rather than what maybe you think is interesting.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, me personally, I just say whatever I feel in the moment,
I respect that.
And even if it's just like, "Hi, I'm Angel, and I'm here right now," so be it.
I like that.
Which is me right now. I'm here. You are the second interview of the day. I'm also going to interview Garo Agopian. He seems like
Okay.
a cool guy.
I like Garo a lot. Yeah, or Garo. Don't tell him this. I'm not entirely sure how to pronounce his name.
I don't know either because I call everybody professor.
That's a safe
Yeah.
bet. Yeah, I think it's Garo. Like it's a pretty soft A and with like a raised soft palate, Garo. But
Garo Agopian.
I'm not entirely sure about that.
Yeah. He's from Lebanon.
Yeah.
And I don't know anybody from Lebanon.
Well, and part of it is he's so polite that he wouldn't tell you if you said his name wrong anyway. So
He seems super chill. When I had him as a professor, he's like, "All right, this is what we're gonna do this semester, and let's go."
yeah, he's a really good guy. He moved here. I think this is his second year now because he joined the year after I got here. So I remember we went and got dinner together just to kind of chat and say hello. And we went to this restaurant that Dr. Padel actually recommended. I don't know if you've ever done this, but asking him for recommendations is an excellent idea.
No, I've
around here in St. Louis, especially, he has a lot of good recommendations. So I forget where this place was, but I remember Gar and I both got something we'd like never heard of as a dish, and we just kind of goofed off, and
it was
it was nice. Yeah, it was like our first time like really sitting down together, so it was fun. He's a good guy, so I'll let you look forward to that.
Oh yeah,
later on.
I found out he speaks 4 languages.
Casually, right?
Yeah,
he just like sneaks that into a conversation. Like, wait! I don't even speak English some days. Like, that's incredible.
I'll be honest. I expected you to have an accent.
I can put on an accent if you'd like.
No. Like, I thought you were from
a southern
Alabama.
accent.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. So like a southern accent. So I mean, I can put on one of those too if you want. But I mean, so I like to tell people that I'm kind of from everywhere. Like I got a little bit of everything in there. So
you got to get 5 different accents in there in one
sentence. My tongue's starting to hurt. I have to stop. It's like I tense up my tongue so that it won't move, because that's how you speak in a southern accent. Is you just don't use your tongue. You just kind of move your mouth around. You have to only use your lips. Oh. It's also important that you can only understand it like maximum 1/3 of the syllables. That's the rule.
Wait, are you from Bama?
Well, so I grew up in East Tennessee, on the west side of Knoxville, Tennessee.
Okay.
So my address said Knoxville, but I went downtown like maybe once a year or something. So my dad is an eye surgeon, and so he has had a practice. He's retired now. Had a practice out west of the city. So we just kind of chilled in the outer suburbs.
West of Tennessee.
Yeah. So my dad's from Connecticut, and my mom is from all over, military family. So So that's why I have little bits of every accent you'll hear in my voice. Occasionally it's on purpose. Usually it's not. So what I do with my students is if I say something that's just wildly out of my normal accent, I just embrace it. And so I'll just go off in a different accent for the next few
You
moments.
just keep it going.
Yeah, and so one time I spent an entire 75-minute lecture in an English accent, and it was a great fun. I mean, doing example problems, the whole 9 yards, reading off the slides, all of it. And I had a blast. I absolutely loved it. The only problem was I realized at the end of the day, students hadn't learned a thing. They had absolutely no clue what I'd be talking about. They just listened to how I said it. And they're like, oh my God, that's not too bad. Like, it's kind of convincing.
Yeah,
And
no,
especially
that's
to people in Alabama who don't know what British actually sounds like, that's pretty good.
yeah.
So,
No,
but
that's
it's they weren't like actually listening to me anymore. So
they were
I
just
had to use
like
that sparingly.
they're just like, wow, cool. I wonder what he's saying.
Yeah, right. Yeah. It was sort of like, I don't know, Men in Black was like the thing that like flashed
Oh,
in
right,
your
right, right.
eyes and you're like, what? They had no idea. So, but anyway, yeah. So I grew up in Knoxville. Technically I was born in Virginia. But then I moved as a baby, so I don't really count that. 18 months old until I went to college. I was in
Oh, wow.
West Knoxville, so East Tennessee. But I think it's almost more true to say that I'm from the mountains than to say that I'm from Knoxville, because I spent far more time in the woods. I mentioned being outside. I was my family loves being outside. My dad grew up in the woods, very rural family, but yet still educated. Weird combination.
Yeah.
Um, and so I was in the Boy Scouts, did all the camping, backpacking, hiking, first aid, all the Boy Scouty stuff, which was a blast, actually. Ton of good memories. I logged over 120 hours camping.
Oh,
So I
wow.
spent 120 nights, 120 nights camping. So I spent a lot of time in the woods, not a lot of time in Knoxville. So do with that what you will.
And now you're in the third or fourth biggest city in the country.
That's right. Third biggest by population, I
Yeah.
think. So LA slams everybody else with like 30 million people, 26, I think.
Really?
And then it's New York and then Chicago.
Yeah. So then how'd you end up at University of Alabama?
Um, Long story short, so I learned a lot of what I knew as a young person from my dad, because he's the kind of person that if you are not talking, he will be. Which
Okay.
is largely a good thing, because he has something to say. There are other people where that's not very fun, but for my dad, like he knows more than almost anyone I've ever met. And so I've had people who are like, Rob, how do you know so much? He's like, well, I'm a good listener. And so I just listen to what my dad said. I know a third of what he knows,
Hmm.
and that's a lot. So I understand that particular example is talking about how the speed of sound changes as you go up in elevation. I'm like, how do you know that? Well, my dad's a private pilot because he just thinks it's fun. And he's a
Wow.
doctor, so he has money to just go be a private pilot or whatever. Not like jets or anything, but still.
But like, what are they called? Biplanes? Something like that?
Well, oh, he would love that. No, it's just picture like, okay, this is going to be a horrible metaphor. Take like a P-51 Mustang and just make it not cool, and you've got kind of what my
What
dad
he's
used to fly.
working with?
Yeah, so it's a very similar shape. Now, I'm trying to give you a visual. Now, I don't want to go into details here because there's a lot to talk about. The
Hmm.
plane's actually very cool, but it doesn't look very cool on the outside. So, do with that what you will.
I don't know, man. Like that one two-person planes. If that's the one I think you're talking about, those look pretty cool in general. Like, is that
This was a pretty cool example of it. And I, again, so I can talk about that a lot, but if you want, we can come back to it. So I haven't
yeah,
actually answered
sure.
your question. So
Yeah, sure,
point
sure.
is, my dad talks a lot. I listen a lot. I learn a lot. That's kind of how my young childhood, young childhood kind of went. And so one of the things that he stressed the most was financial literacy. And so I had this passion from probably middle school on that I wanted to be an entrepreneur.
Hmm.
And so I had these dueling loves of entrepreneurship and music, and I couldn't decide what I was going to do. And so I decided to pick my college based off of entrepreneurship. I drew about a 6-7 hour circle around Knoxville, and with some exceptions, started looking at programs. Long story short, I ended up at Alabama, um, and which was hard. I actually turned down a couple music scholarships.
Oh, really?
None
Yeah.
of them were like a full ride or anything. It was going to be like a couple $1,000s or something, which sounds nice, but if you're looking at a school that's $31,000 a year,
And you're coming from out of state.
yeah. So it's like, well, sweet. Now it's $29,000 a year, and that's just tuition. I haven't paid for housing, food, anything. And Alabama was the only place that I could get my tuition taken care of. So
Wow.
I was extremely fortunate to have that taken care of for me. Um, so I made an easy decision. You know, I was applying all over the country, as far west as Brigham Young University, as far north as Babson College in Massachusetts. And I wrote over 30 essays trying to get scholarships, and I worked my butt
Wow.
off, and yeah, got a scholarship at Alabama. So I signed up, and a few months before, I think it was about March, I decided, you know what? I do want to do a music major. Like I want to do entrepreneurship, but I want to do a music major too. And so I called Alabama, and they didn't do scholarship applications for the degree I wanted to get, which was kind of lame. But so I showed up, and the day that I showed up happened to be the spring training game for the football team.
Wow.
And so I got to go, I did my audition for the School of Music. I met with the dean of the business college, and then I walked over and put on a jersey and went over to the stadium and joined the marching band.
Oh, wow. You
And
did
it
that.
was such a fun, like, first day on campus. It was in April before I went to college in the fall. And I was hooked. I was in love. Like I fell in love with the campus, and that's one of the reasons I wanted to go.
If I'm not mistaken, like it's a huge campus, right?
Oh my, yeah, it's enormous. I remember I clocked it one time because I had 10 minutes to go from the second floor of the business building. I'm sorry, of the music building, with my instrument in hand, the saxophone. So like instrument in hand, my rehearsal ended at 12:50,
Mm-hmm.
and then I had to be in a class in the business building on the third floor,
Oh, wow.
10 minutes. So I had to pack up my instrument, put it in a locker, and travel over 1.1 miles
Damn.
to get to class on time. So I borrowed a bike from my parents, and I would just like sprint across campus. Fortunately, it's pretty flat. So,
Yeah.
but I would get there soaked in sweat every day because it's Alabama in like, in September. So it's like 100 degrees and
Uh,
humid.
yeah, it's humid. It's kind of swampy, no?
Oh yeah, it's awful. Yeah, it's crazy. So some people lose weight when they go to college. I lost 5 pounds.
Oh, wow.
I weighed 140 pounds. I don't weigh that now. I'll tell you that. I don't weigh that now.
160, all muscle, right? Of course.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Of course.
Especially the all muscle part.
Yeah. With all your free time to lift weights.
That's right. Yeah. So the rest is history. I listened to your interview with Dr. Bedell, and it was funny how much of his story is similar to mine, because it took me. I made it a little longer than he did. He quit after a half a semester. I made it a semester and a half.
Oh, really?
Um,
You were almost
yeah.
halfway to a music degree, no?
Well, I mean, not a year and a half, a semester and a
Oh,
half.
a
So,
semester.
yeah. So I started in August, and by March, I think I said, "Nope, I've had enough."
Wow.
It's worth mentioning that they did an experiment with my year, and they changed how the curriculum went, and they took it back the next year. They were like, "Nope, that was awful."
Too many
I
people
agreed.
quit or
It
something?
was it was awful. So I did finish a minor. So I have a minor in music. Fun fact, but which you can look over my shoulder. You see a guitar
Yeah. And a
and a
piano.
piano. There's a little black tube you probably can't see next to the American flag.
Yeah, I see it. What was that? Like a flute?
Essentially, it's a tin whistle. So
Oh,
if you've seen the movie Lord of the Rings and
mhm.
the Hobbit song, like that, do da 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 da.
It's been a while, dude. I haven't seen it in a
Okay,
while.
well I won't play it for you, but
I mean, didn't you say you could play it through your nose, right? Or were you
I
not
have
serious?
yeah, I don't think I'm going to embarrass myself like that, but so all I have
Uh,
to say is I enjoyed my time there. It was just miserable because I realized that all I wanted to do was play saxophone,
uh,
and I didn't have to take music of world cultures or history of music or the music theory courses, which were just miserably hard. I mean, they were so hard. um I honestly believe that my music theory class was harder than like any class I took in part of the calculus sequence.
wow.
I mean, I think my average was like 17 hours a week of homework.
My God. That's
It was awful. Yeah, I was like, I had enough. There's 2 more of these. I'm good.
2 more semesters or 2 more classes?
2 more semesters. Yeah, 2
Oh
more
my
classes.
God.
Like I thought there are 4 theory classes required for a business student. I'm sorry, a music student minimum. That's like everyone takes 4 pretty much. And obviously, if you're a theory major, you take more than that. But I took 2, and I took my B, and I was like the most proud I'll ever be of a B. I worked my tail off for that. It was like my one music theory class, and all my other classes was like,
They
this
were
is
equal.
17 hours, and this is 10 hours of work.
Oh my God, that sounds.
Yeah,
Well, you did play in the marching band
that's right.
for the football team, as you
Hmm.
said, when they had a dynasty. And
That's
if
right.
I remember, there was like 6 straight years. They were like, no, 2 years they were undefeated or something like that.
So I'm in an extremely privileged position to say it's hard to keep track. You know,
Oh
uh,
my God.
I say it with that expression just to be
Yeah,
annoying. And
to add the extra.
yeah, I mean, so Alabama won the 2009 national championship,
I
which
remember
is
that.
after I applied. It was like 2 months before I went to that visit, but I had already like committed, like that's where I was
Mhm.
going. I honestly didn't know that Alabama had a good team because at the time they were just that, a good team.
Yeah,
They weren't amazing like we are now.
yeah.
And we're the current national championships. We won the championship 3 weeks ago.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Oh,
so
wow.
Alabama has won, I think, 6 times in the
With Nick
last
Saban?
11 years.
That's the guy's name, right? Nick Saban?
Yeah, Nick Saban. Yep,
That guy's a
he
beast.
is a terrifying individual.
Have you met him?
Um, not personally, but I have been in his presence. There is some a couple things that the football team and the marching band do together.
Hmm.
Um, and most of them are reserved for the seniors in the marching band. So, for example, the seniors teach the alma mater. The seniors in the marching band teach the alma mater to the football team.
Oh, wow.
So when you go to the football stadium for that. But yeah, so I was there for 2 years and got to be part of one of the national championships, which was just
2011?
incredibly fun. Yeah, 2011. So we won 2009, 2011, 2012, 2014, 2016, 2020.
Oh my
I think.
gosh. Yeah, you guys did go back to back.
Yeah. So it was pretty fun. And it's fun to be there at not quite at the start of it because the students 1 year ahead of me were at the start. They were at the cusp.
If I'm not mistaken, they compared the 2011, 2012 teams to professional teams, right?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Because,
Which I mean, yeah, they like to do that a lot, but you never know. You never know.
but it would still be a team full of rookies versus like
Right.
veterans.
I've even seen an interview where somebody asked Nick Saban, they're like, "What do you think? Could your team take an NFL team?" And he was like, "No." What do you mean? Like, are you kidding me? The worst NFL team would kill us.
I don't know what the 0-16 Detroit Lions or the 0-16 Cleveland Browns.
Yeah, I mean,
Maybe.
obviously, I have no educated opinion. I mean, I understand football, but I'm no expert. You know, I can tell you what the rules are, but I don't know what a dime package is. You know, I don't understand defensive schemes and anything like that. So,
Okay. So you don't
um,
like watch it in your free time to like veg out?
uh, I mean, partially, I'm too cheap to pay for cable. So, I. Well, especially now that like
Okay.
streaming platforms aren't just it's not just Netflix
Yeah.
now, you know? So it's like, oh, well, okay, I'm
Everybody
paying
has.
for Amazon Prime and I have Netflix and I have Hulu and I have Crunchyroll and I have, like every other it seems like I have everything, but I won't pay for cable and I don't pay for HBO or Disney Plus. I'm boycotting that as well.
Really?
Yeah, I know. I haven't seen The Mandalorian on principle, which I'm actually hurts because I know it's so good,
Hmm.
but I'm like, I'm not paying for Disney Plus. I'm
Yeah.
not doing it.
I'm in the same boat. I don't ever want to watch none of that new stuff they got going on. I don't even know. See? There you go. I don't even know what's going on.
So the best part to me is that, of course, people were going crazy about Game of Thrones for so long, and then the end
Yeah.
of the series was such a flop that I felt like I had won. You guys, you clowns, paid for HBO for 8 seasons. Ha!
So you never watched any Game of Thrones?
I've never
Oh
seen
my
a single
God.
episode.
You know what's funny is my mom got a new phone plan and it came with HBO Max. And I was like, all right, I'm gonna see what the hype is. and I watched the entirety of Game of Thrones in like 3 weeks.
Whoo,
Yeah,
that's a lot.
all
I
eight
mean,
seasons.
I respect that.
Yeah, and I can tell you, the first few seasons are good, but it's I don't know.
Yeah.
You know what? The eighth season is kind of whack because if I remember right, the the EPs, the executive producers, they kind of rushed it to go work on Star Wars, but it was so bad that they got fired from Star Wars or something like that.
Yeah. I
Yeah,
remember my fiance at the time girlfriend was just fuming about the
really.
eighth season and just how horrible it was. And some people were like holding out. They're like, no, it's not that bad. It's gonna be fine. It's gonna
Yeah,
all work out. And she's like, no, it's been 5 episodes of garbage. There's no way they're saving this. Like, it's
yeah,
just gonna be horrible. And so
yeah. I
part
gotta
of me
agree.
was like, I'm so sorry for you. But I had to be caring and
Yeah,
be a good
yeah, yeah.
boyfriend. And because I respected that she was honest about being like, this is garbage.
Hmm.
This is bad. So I was like, well, I am sorry for you.
Yeah, that ending. It wasn't as terrible as some people try to make it out to seem, but it was pretty bad. It
Yeah.
was. Like, if I'm being honest. But I don't know. Game of Thrones. Maybe they'll redo it. What was Bourbon Street like?
So I did not actually go after the game. I went before the game or the night before maybe,
Mhm.
and it was wild. Like I mean I'm a foodie, so the most poignant memories to me were the food. So we went to Cafe du Monde and we got
Bro,
beignets.
that's my spot.
Oh,
That is
it's
my
like
place.
how can a donut and just like powdered sugar be this
Yeah,
good? But it is. But it is. And
yeah.
then we went from there. We went over to Bourbon Street proper, and there is this like side cafe. There's a bunch of them, but there's one particular one that I'm aware of that has a little like a patio or pavilion, not pavilion, like a. I don't think it was
Like that
covered. Maybe it
upstairs
was.
area.
No, so it's like there's just like a bar that you walk up to order your food from, and then all the
Mhm.
tables are outside, and then there's a little, I think there's a little stage, and they had a band playing. And it's New Orleans jazz. I mean, like
Yeah,
some of the best in the world. So you just go get like legitimate jambalaya, real
yeah.
jambalaya in New Orleans, and you're sitting with real New Orleans jazz. And I was just like in heaven.
Yes.
I just come from beignets, right? Like I was starting on like cloud 8, and here we are in cloud 9. I was like, whoo,
Yeah.
this is
Yeah. Yeah.
awesome.
If anybody has never been to Bourbon Street, go there.
So I
I've been
went
there twice.
I went back a second time. So I did not drink before I turned 21, which is its own
Good.
story, and I'll save that. But that was a choice that I made.
Mhm.
And so I didn't have anything and didn't try any of the drinks, nothing. And I went back a few years later, and I wanted to try a couple drinks. And so I was like, yeah, I'm just gonna have 2 drinks. I'm here. I'm gonna try 2. Did not realize that was all I was gonna want.
Because the cups are like this big.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think I had like a hand grenade and a hurricane because those are the 2 drinks I'd heard about the most.
Yeah.
And that was a lot. So but there's a lot of good memories. Partially being inspired by my first time there. I had started taking I joined the ballroom dance group on campus, and I had learned to
Really.
ballroom dance. And I actually went the second time with some friends of mine from the ballroom dance club. And so there's a particular dance that you only need one hand to lead. And so I have this like distinct memory of being out in front of one of like the clubs or something. And we're each holding like sipping on a hand grenade and dancing in front of the coast. And all these people are coming out like, oh, damn, and looking at
Everybody's so
her,
hype over there.
obviously. Right. But
Everybody's always so hype over there. So excited. Like the energy is so great over there.
it was a blast. So what were your experiences like on Bourbon Street? When did you go?
Uh, so I went in 2016 and then again in 2019. The first time was pretty cool. We got an Airbnb, me and my girl, and basically, so when we got dropped off by the Uber from the airport to the Airbnb, the guy's like, "Hey, just letting you know, don't be around here at night." So all we really did was party in Bourbon Street and then just Uber home. And that was pretty much it. We didn't do too much sightseeing.
Yeah.
But then the next time we went, we stayed at a hotel. Well, actually, okay. You know what? Story time. We got another Airbnb that said it had 3 beds, and and it was, you know how Bourbon Street kind of goes if you go west. If you go west and it becomes like high rises.
Vaguely, I'm gonna pull up a Google Maps on my other monitor.
Okay, for sure. And
Uh,
so we walk in, and the bed was not made. The couch was wet. All the tables had like a wafer of dust on it. The bathtub had like grime all up everything. We
oh,
found a half smoked joint and a pack of cigarettes. And there was
the
no
gift,
smoking.
the
So
gift that keeps on giving. Oh my
yeah, so we were just
gosh.
like, we can't do this. Like we
No.
called the guy, the owner, and he was like, "Oh well, I'll give you your money back. Don't worry about it." So then we get a hotel, and after 2 or 3 days, he didn't give me my money back. So I had to like call Airbnb corporate
Oh
and
no.
like threaten him that way, and then that's when he gave me my money back.
Yikes. I have been fortunate with my few Airbnbs that
You've had good ones.
yeah, which I just haven't had much opportunity to travel for a while. Um,
Well, yeah, you're a busy guy now. You got like
uh,
4 classes, right?
I just teach 3. I might have had 4 this semester. Kind of a long story, but we've, we we've added a new business analytics minor, which we're calling it the data analytics minor to make it a little more vague, but like being a little more, accessible for people outside of the College of Business. We didn't want to
Mhm.
call it business analytics
That
and
makes
have
sense.
people think that was business only.
Yeah.
We didn't mean it that way, but we thought it might be perceived that way. So we positioned it as data analytics. Anyway, point being that um, I was originally scheduled for 3 sections of normal classes, and then I was going to offer this analytics course as well.
Mhm.
But we're not supposed to do that. Everything is very unionized, so it's very like rigorous and structured, which is largely fantastic, and I love it. There are times when it's inconvenient,
Yeah.
and so this is one of those times where it was like, well, you can teach a 4th class, but we kind of can't pay you for it. So
All right.
and I was like, well, obviously, I don't like that. I'd rather teach 3 classes than 4. It's
And make the
just
same money.
it's a lot of effort,
Yeah.
like, and yeah, I already don't have enough time. So taking on a 4th class, if I kind of want to do it, but if I'm not going to get paid for it, like that makes it harder.
You enjoy it,
So
not that much, I assume.
yeah. I mean, like, it's just, it's this tough thing of like, this is my way to make money. Like, this is how I earn a living, right?
Mhm.
So if people say like, well, would you do it if you didn't have to, if you didn't make money? It's like,
Mhm.
no one would ever do their job unless they're somehow financially independent. But I'm not, like,
Yeah.
so of course I wouldn't. I have to feed myself and my family. Like, I'm getting married. I can't not have a job.
Yeah. You gotta pay for that wedding.
Right. Yeah. If I didn't have to pay for anything, then yeah, I chose this not to do for the money.
Hmm.
I'm incredibly blessed to be able to honestly say that. I chose this field because I enjoy it. And it just happens to pay me more than enough that I need to take care of things.
Wow.
So that's fantastic.
Sounds
That's
like a
truly
blessing.
a blessing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Literally, the story of how I got in here is very short. I was telling a friend, I was like, hey, I had this great idea. I'm going to start having 2 laundry baskets. One of them's white, and one of them's blue.
Okay.
And when I change clothes, when I disrobe to take a shower or whatever, I'll pre-sort lights into the white basket, darks into the dark basket.
All right.
My laundry speed is like 3 times what it was. I mean, the like folding whatever is just as long,
Yeah.
but at least like the checking for stains or whatever, like that pre-sorting process is so much easier. And he said, Rob, I think you'd like operations management. I said, what's operations management? The rest is history.
Really? I
Pretty
have 3
much. And
degrees in it.
I'd never heard of it. And he's like, that's the kind of thinking that we look for in operations management. And then I had a professor, my first semester actually, who incidentally is from New Orleans, or from outside of New Orleans, and Dr. Emmett Lodry, who recruited me to the PhD program. And at first I brushed him off, but he won me over. So
So you didn't plan
um,
on getting a PhD right away,
no,
or like at
not
all,
at all. No. The funny
uh,
story is my sister is a doctor. So my dad's a doctor and my sister is a doctor,
like medical
and
doctor, or just PhD? Like okay,
medical doctors. Yeah.
okay,
And so my sister's quite a bit older than I am. And so I watched her go through medical school when I was in middle school.
okay.
And I was like, oh my God, this looks awful. Like, why would anyone want to be a doctor? This is terrible. And and nobody goes to medical school or no one gets to be a doctor so they can go through medical school, right?
Yeah,
No one does that.
yeah.
But I was like, no, I don't want to do anything that hard. That looks terrible. And so when they were initially recruiting me to get a PhD, I was like, okay, that sounds hard. I'm not sure I want that, but it doesn't sound as hard as getting a medical degree. Um, I haven't decided if that's true or not because I've only experienced one, so I don't know how to assess that. But I do know that the statistics of people finishing a PhD without like clinical depression is very small.
Really? Oh,
It's
damn.
people crying in the office was like not. It's not. I'm not to say we didn't care. Like people would go over and like comfort the student who's having a mental breakdown, but it wasn't like, oh my God, what's happening? It was like, well, yeah, it's their turn.
It's their turn, exactly.
Yeah, well, she's a first year. Like the reason that she hasn't seen us cry is because we've been here for 3 years and she just started. Like,
Wow, I didn't even think of it that way.
yeah, but it was an awesome group. I loved my coworkers, my classmates, my colleagues were incredible. We keep in touch. One of them was like a hobbyist painter and incredible. So I actually had her paint my mother a Christmas present one time.
Aw,
Yeah, it was just like such a great group of people and it was multinational. So it was a hint of what I was going to get in Chicago because I was the only white person. And
really?
I loved it. It was incredible because Alabama, think about it. What do you expect it to look like? I got you in a word, monochromatic. It's a bunch of white people, and that is pretty stale.
There's not a lot of Hispanics down there, if I right? No, because they all come to New York, Chicago, Miami, LA.
Yeah. So I got various experiences that were like finally not just white bread, which
Hmm.
was so like that was awesome. All over the world. I have an African American advisor, and
Hmm.
then my like instructors are from like the Middle East or from Eastern Europe,
Oh wow.
Asia. Let's see, India. Did I have any actually like true? I guess I didn't have any true African professors. I had South American professors. That's disappointing. Well, and like okay, Australia and Antarctica. I was about to be like, I'm missing continents. Okay, missing three. So,
Yeah.
but there's no penguins, so chances of
There's no
having an
penguin
Antarctica, yeah, it's not gonna
teaching.
happen.
So after you got accepted into the PhD program, what was the process like besides the coffee and crying? Besides those two very big parts.
um, well, so I had it was a little awkward because I had finished an undergraduate in business, but that didn't give me all the classes I needed to get a PhD in business.
Oh wow.
Because it's very heavily math based for operations management. So for an undergraduate, we pretty much will say like, here's the math, you're welcome. Now here's the formula to use. But
Yeah.
then for the PhD, I have to prove that formula. I have to be able to derive it myself and like do the calculus and prove.
Wow.
I remember an exam question where they gave us, because like the basic formulas are too easy. Like that's trivial to prove. And so they gave us a harder version that we'd never seen before. And we had like 2 hours to figure it out.
Oh wow.
Just go.
Wait, so you go
And
in blind and they're like, all right, be free. Do it.
yeah,
Oh my
I mean,
God.
for that exam. So there are qualifying exams every year.
Mhm.
And so you have a year of classes and you're taking a mix of PhD level and master's level courses. The theory being that PhD is helping you to do research
Mhm.
and master's courses are helping you to teach because you're going to have to do both. And so I got a master's degree while at my PhD because I needed the master's degree to be able to teach. And
Wow.
then you need the PhD to do research, basically. It's kind of how they structured it. So you're doing both at the same time, which is exhausting.
Dude, that
And
sounds
then
insane.
it's not fun. But there's good news, and that is because they're expecting you to be coming, like with skills,
Mhm.
experience often, and maybe a family, they pay you a stipend. So your living expenses are taken care of. In exchange, though, you have to serve as a teaching assistant for 20 hours a week.
Wow.
So you're working your butt off on classes, trying to figure out all this math stuff. And, I didn't take calculus until I was a senior because they didn't need it. And all of a sudden I needed calculus to get my PhD. So I finished mostly my undergrad courses, but I was still in school because I had to take calculus and stuff. So I was in this like weird waiting period. I like sat in on a PhD course just to see what it was like. But I didn't do the homeworks or the exams. I just like sat there. It was weird.
Dude, that sounds so exhausting. Like, I
Yeah.
almost want to feel sorry. Like, holy guacamole,
Well, yeah. And what the funny part about it was, looking back, being in grad school was a lot easier than being a faculty member.
Really?
And I remember them telling us that, and they wouldn't tell us that very often, but only if we complained too much.
Like, you guys got it easy right now. Just
Yeah,
relax.
because everything that you're doing is new.
Mm-hmm.
And anyone who's a novice at something will struggle.
Mm-hmm.
Unless you're a prodigy. That's what being a prodigy means, is that you just skip that part.
Yeah.
And that's the vast majority of people don't do that. I mean, 99.99% don't do that. Even really smart people. I can tell you, I was in a room full of smart people and everyone was struggling. That's just what it is. And it was really difficult, but the as you go, you just get so much better and so much faster. You do better work in half the time.
Wow.
And I remember the best example I can give you is, I was given an assignment by my advisor, and we're starting a new project. And so he tasked me with, he gave me a week to try to understand what exists in the literature right now. And I looked at him like he was crazy. What? How am I just going to like understand the literature in a week? And so what I did is I spent like 20 or 30 hours on Google Scholar reading papers. And I turned in a report. It was like several pages long of like summaries of each of the articles or whatever. And he just looked at me like, what the hell is this? And he literally just put it to the side on his desk. And like, he talked about it for a few minutes, but then he just put it to the side of his desk and we just started over. He's like, this is useless.
What? Why
and again, he's an incredible person. I respect him immensely. He was not being like, you're an idiot, this is useless. He was just like, this is not what we need. This is not going to do it. And so I wasted, like 30 hours. I didn't waste, because I learned better how to do a literature review. And so now so we sat in his office and we accomplished more in like 45 minutes than I did in 30 hours. And that's the thing, is like, at first you don't know what to do. And so you're floundering. Mm-hmm. And as you build experience and gain and learn how to do it, I mean, it can become much, much, much faster. So what happens is, the easiest year workload wise is the first year. And then they ratchet it up the second year, ratchet it up the third year, ratchet up the fourth year. And then actually being a faculty is quite a bit harder than that. But because you get better, the perceived difficulty just kind of stays mental. But, I mean, it's
at least it's becoming more efficient.
Yeah.
Wow.
Another example, I started learning how to video edit. First video took me 4 hours. Yep. I can usually edit a video now in like 5 minutes. Yeah. For my teaching purposes, because it's very minimal. It's like cuts, very easy stuff.
Yeah.
But that's the kind of time, like, but you have to start at the 4 hours to be able to get to the part where you can do it in 5 minutes. So, and I tell my students that all the time, like, you are in the hard part. Anything that's new is hard.
Yeah.
Solving a Rubik's Cube is completely baffling if you don't know how to solve it. And once you do, my record is 1 minute and 42 seconds. It's not actually that hard. It just looks really hard. And if you don't have someone to teach you, it is really hard.
And then you spend a few months on it.
Yeah. And then all of a sudden, you're like timing yourself, and you can do it in under 2 minutes consistently. The world record is like 4 seconds.
Wow. Oh, right. Because they like look at it for a second, right?
Yeah. So you're allowed to look at it.
Yeah.
And then you put it down on this like weighted pad thing.
Yeah.
And then you touch the thing, and like, and it stops when you slap the table again.
Yeah. I've only seen one person, what is it called? Defend your thesis? Something like that? Yeah. So I've only seen one. So I didn't know exactly what it took to get your doctorate, but that sounds exhausting. And I know I was having this discussion with somebody that, what's a nice way to say it? They don't have any collegiate experience. I don't know,
Mm,
I guess.
sure.
And he was like, "Oh, it's not that hard. It's not that hard." And he's the type of person where he knows everything, and I don't know, man. It's annoying.
Yeah. So the very very short version, I gave you an experiential overview without really a good program overview. The very short version is you start out taking a lot of classes, and then as you go, you wean off on classes and you do more and more research
Yes.
and teach. And so by the end, your fourth year, or however your program's structured, mine was four and out, which is fast. And usually it's like 5 to 6 years. We were four and then like out the door basically. Anyway, so by my fourth year, I was not taking any classes. I was teaching and doing research, and then of course traveling around the country to do job interviews, or hoping to anyway.
And then you
Um,
also have other people that are just as smart as you saying like, "All right, but what about this? But what about this?"
oh yeah, yeah. So, and
And
that's where
then
the dissertation defense comes in. So I
yeah,
told you that there are qualifying exams. So you have to do these like presentations. And so at first they're like time, it's like a specific time. After 1 year, you do this. After 2 years, you do this. And then it's free form. So it's like whenever you're ready, you
yeah.
do that. So you do a bunch of research, you do a whole bunch of work, and then you write it up, turn it into a presentation, turn it into a paper. I think mine was like 79 pages.
Wow.
And then you submit it, and that's called your proposal. And you say, okay, I've now decided what I'm going to do my dissertation on. And so, you've written this enormous like book, like it's a huge packet or a little book.
Hmm.
And now you can start your dissertation, so to speak. And you can recycle what you've already done, of course, but so you have to do a bunch of work just to even officially start. And then it takes another year or two, usually or more, to finish the actual dissertation. And so the proposal is like a mini defense. You're defending your proposal basically. And so you go in and they ask you a bunch of questions. It's like an hour and a half presentation,
Hmm.
and they tear you apart.
Yep.
And my faculty told me there will be a day when you are presenting in front of somebody who does not like you. Maybe they don't dislike you. They just don't care about you. They don't know who you are. Like you're nobody to them.
Yeah.
At a research conference or something, they have no idea who you are. They don't care if they hurt your feelings. We do. So you need to learn to take critical feedback from people who like you so that you can handle it from somebody who doesn't like you. And I was not happy to hear that, but I took it. It was not that uncommon to see people like shaking or crying coming out of their different proposals because it
Yeah.
was so stressful.
Yeah.
And I mean, these professors
They go in.
they go for you. I mean, and I remember one professor arguing with the presenter for a while, and then he was like, "Well, this doesn't make any sense to me, but go on anyway."
Oh shit. That sounds heartbreaking.
And I mean, everybody in the room was just like,
Oh my god.
everyone was just like, "Oh my!" It was rough.
That
It was
sounds
rough.
that sounds stressful.
So you do that once, and then you do a bunch of research, and you do it again.
Hmm. Until eventually they're like, "All right, I like this. You did good, kid. Now
Yeah.
get out of here."
So the good news is, if the advisor does his job, or does her job, does their job, which if you want to go, get me on a rant about pronouns, I'll do that. I've done got some thoughts. Anyway, does their job,
Hmm.
then the candidate generally won't be going for their defense until they're ready.
Hmm.
And if you've done your work that you're supposed to do, you should know the answer to pretty much any question they're going to ask, and then some. Like I've even heard some people who would plant questions in the audience so that they could like ask clarification questions or something, let them reiterate the important points of their question or something
I've
like that.
seen that, or I've seen
Yeah.
a meme of that.
Yeah, some people will do that. I've seen it before. But anyway, like you will know it so intimately. You're spending hours a day for 2 years.
Yeah.
You know it inside and out, and so it's extremely stressful. But honestly, I didn't think that was kind of overhyped. Like I thought that dissertation was easier than that the defense itself was
Wow.
easier than it might have been. But I credit that to my institution, that they prepared us for that
Yeah.
by being merciless the whole way through. You're like, well, yeah, of course they're merciless. That's no big deal.
And if I'm not mistaken, that is Dispatching policies for last mile distribution with stochastic supply and demand.
Yeah, that's right. Actually, I don't think I sent you that. So,
No, dude, I
oh,
was doing my Googles. And staff
okay.
assignment policies for a mass casualty event queuing network.
Yep.
Et al. Et al. There we go.
Et al. Yeah, it's Latin.
That means like and everything else, right?
Yeah. So I was the third author on that. So there are different conventions. Generally speaking, if there are one or two authors, then they just list them. And then if there's three or more, then they put the first author and then et al. Afterwards.
And that's annals of operation research. What does that mean? That's
So it's actually pronounced annals. So annals of operations research is it's just the journal name. Annals is a old fashioned word that it's like the records or whatever. So it's supposed to be like the library. Imagine a very posh Sebastian, perhaps. The library of operations research. We drink tea with our pinky out here. Thank you very much.
Right. Oh, there we go.
Yes, that's right. Yes, quite. So yes, I have my first paper was in transportation research part E, which is a weird way of saying there's one, like, I'm not entirely sure how it's organized, but there's part A, part B, part C, part D, part E. I think it goes through like F or something. I don't remember. But B and E are the best ones. And so we published in part E, which was really nice. That was a big accomplishment. So I was very proud of that. And then while I was finishing up that paper, my advisor and his co-author, who coincidentally, the co-author actually works at DePaul University, so just downtown. So one of my first days, like first few weeks in Chicago, he invited me down to get some sauerkraut and a beer at the local German place. And I was like, I'm in Chicago, real like ethnic food. This is incredible. I've been in freaking Alabama for 8 years. God, real food. This is incredible. Anyway, that's a side topic.
Well, Alabama has a lot of good fried foods.
True. Actually, yeah. Fried and like barbecue are.
Yes.
And anyway. Barbecue. So I ate a lot of barbecue while I was there. Anyway, point being that they were trying to meet a deadline, and they're like, "Hey, can we pull you off your dissertation for a month? We'll get you a publication." And I was like, "Deal."
That's like a gym badge in Pokemon, right?
Yeah, like yeah. That? Publications are the end all be all. I mean, like, if you don't have a publication going on the job market,
really,
it's going to be hard. And so I was fortunate enough to have two. And so that was I was very, very fortunate. Very fortunate there. So I had my transportation research part E paper, and then this annals of operations research paper. So having two was very strong. Maybe it gave me a very strong case. So
correct me if I'm wrong, and I hope I am, but sometimes institutions hire people and just tell them do research and do nothing else. Just get all these get papers out there.
I mean, not here, but yeah. So there's a huge bag of worms here. Short answer is yes. There are institutions that do that. However, generally speaking, it's rare to hire brand new faculty. So there's a thing called ABD, which is anything but dissertation, all but dissertation, something like that. Mm-hmm. The idea is you've finished all your coursework, you've done everything you're supposed to do, you're just waiting to defend. And because you probably wouldn't know this, but the collegiate application process, like to become a college professor, is so long, it takes almost a full calendar year and more in some cases. So like I was applying in, I want to say like September, October for my position that I started in fall. I started in August. So it's the full calendar year cycle. So it's really long. So as a consequence, like when you're applying, it's really common for people to not have their PhD yet, but they're going to soon.
Okay.
So that's why they're ABD, like they're almost there. And that's totally normal. It's literally the first question we have on our like questionnaire when we have faculty candidates is like, do you have your PhD yet? If not, tell us about it. And it's not like you're not in trouble. We just want to hear about it. Like, we're just curious. So anyway, I forgot what we were talking about. What was the point of this?
Institutions that hire professors and be like, don't even bother teaching. Just like
Right.
do research.
So yeah, so even somebody who's had like 5 or 6 years in a PhD program, they may have a publication or two, but that's not considered. That's considered promise, like potential. But
Mm,
it's evidence of potential is all that's considered. But it's the standard for someone in my position, like for an assistant professor. That's normal. But it's rare that you're going to want to hire somebody who only has potential when you're going to pay them for just research all the time. It does happen, but it's rare. Usually they'll hire somebody else who's been in the industry for a little while
mm,
and has some publications under the belt, and they'll hire that person. But that's very uncommon. Even a research one institution, which is a designation, basically it's generally the most research focused institutions, you're
mm.
still going to teach 4 classes a year.
Really?
So we are a teaching school here, and so I teach 6 classes a year, but most of the faculty at NEIU actually teach 8 classes a year. However, we've negotiated with the union that because our class sizes are a lot larger,
Mhm.
I have more students than a lot of my classmates, a lot of my colleagues, even though I have fewer sections, because I routinely have like 40 students in a section.
Wow.
So we're given a one course release to make up for the fact that our class sizes are quite large.
Wow. I never knew that. That's so interesting.
There's a lot that goes on behind the scenes that students don't see.
Students are just like students are just like, how can I cheat on my next exam?
Yeah.
Not me, of course. And I don't think you've ever cheated on an exam, of course, right? Yeah. See?
Nope.
No, everything's online now.
Yeah. So, and that's been a nightmare, you know.
You don't like it? Come on, dude. There's
Well,
plenty
I
of
mean, I there are aspects of it that are fantastic, and there are classes that I truly believe are better taught online. Um, but and certainly, I don't want to get into a huge pros and cons discussion. I recorded like 3 different videos at the start of my semester and posted them onto my online courses to say like, here's what I think about online teaching, and here's how I'm going to structure the courses accordingly. And so there's some really good things about it.
Mhm.
But the big problem is that we're having to do it all at once, and we don't necessarily have the support we need,
Mhm.
um, because we weren't prepared for it. You know, I was in the middle of being trained to be an online teacher, or technically, I was being just trained for designing online courses. But anyway, um, I had already finished being trained to be an online teacher, and I was in online design when we hit March last year. Um, and so it's just throwing everything online at once.
Yeah.
So to give you an example, this past week, I rewrote an instruction manual provided by the textbook authors because it was out of date.
Because it didn't have anything to do with online.
Well, because the instructions were, sorry, I wasn't clear. This was instructions for downloading and installing a couple software programs, which when I've been trained on these softwares. And when I was trained, they pretty much were like, well, your IT folks will do this. So we're going to help you. We're going to walk you through it just so you can do the training on your own laptop. But then like, you're never going to have to worry about this.
And then the entire
And then here we are.
university. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's just been a nightmare. And then like there's version incompatibility, and you know, and so you never know like, where did I go wrong? Is it this thing that's wrong now? Is it this part that's wrong now? And so it's just, and so students then blame me for that. They're like,
Yeah.
you gave us this piece of crap software. It's like, well, I planned this class in 2019. When I submitted it to governance, it went through the university system with my syllabus and the textbook I'd picked, and that's all been in the book since 2019, long before this. I was never expecting you to download the software, but yet here we are.
Never expecting a global pandemic.
Or the Spanish Inquisition, you know, expects the Spanish
Or the
Inquisition.
Spanish Inquisition. Always expect.
Sorry, I had to sneak in a meme there.
No.
So yeah, all I have to say is there's lots of associated headaches that come with it that you wouldn't expect. I had a teaching assistant, but I couldn't get her added to the course shell because there's privacy issues there with access to information that a TA wouldn't normally have to worry about. So, you know, I've signed all kinds of disclosures and things like, you know, I'm not going to share private information or whatever. And the TA would do that to a degree, but they have a different level of access to information when they're access to the D2L shell.
Yeah.
And so we have gotten that resolved in the meantime. But before, I had a TA that I almost couldn't use because I couldn't give her the assignments that I had for my semester. So I had to like download the assignments, download the rubric, hand copy the rubric into an Excel spreadsheet, which I then copied in the class roster, and then like did all this stuff, put it into Google Drive and sent it to her.
Mm-hmm.
And then she would spend, however long it took, 10 hours, whatever, to grade the assignment and then send it back. And then I had to type copy in by hand because there's no upload feature. So I had to type in every like rubric line item by hand for every student. And I have over 100 students
That
for
sounds
every
awesome,
assignment.
dude.
So normally that wouldn't be an issue, but online it is. And that problem we've gotten resolved in the meantime. But last semester, that wasn't an issue. Or that was an issue. Oh, there's Arthur.
Yeah.
That was a big issue. And, so I fell behind and couldn't keep up with my work because I was trying to sort out problems I wasn't expecting to ever have and got behind on my grading. And I mean, I understand how horrible it is to be a student and not have your assignments graded. I get it, but I just couldn't keep up with it. And so, students were unhappy and had every right to be.
Let me ask you this, and feel free, to not answer if you don't feel like it. Do you ever go to like rate my professor?
Oh, my reviews are horrible. Yeah, they're really bad. The good news is that there's only like 7 people who have reviewed me.
Mm-hmm.
And I haven't done the numbers in a little bit, but I had like 700 reviews at the university site,
Oh, wow.
and they're quite a bit better. So,
So without pandemic, you're a pretty solid teacher,
yeah.
professor.
I mean, yeah. So you can say I'm a good teacher, a solid teacher, and that's fine. Teaching is an aspect of being a professor. It's not the whole thing, but it is a legitimate act. And it's also the biggest part. According to the contract, it is, I believe, considered to be 50% of my job, which might sound like a small portion. It's actually a lot.
Yeah, that sounds like a lot the way you just explained it to me.
So there's 3 major components of being a professor: teaching, research, and service. And teaching being 50%. If you think about it, if it's an even split, it would be 33. And usually service is smaller. So it's like, usually it's like 50, 30. So for a research institution, it's like 50, 30, 20 research, teaching, service. But here it's 50, 50, 30, 20, or 50, 50, 40, 10 maybe. I can't remember, for teaching, research, and service.
What is service?
Service is like serving on committees or
Oh, okay.
yeah. So for example, I'm the secretary of the management and marketing department. So when we have our monthly meetings, I take the minutes, I distribute the minutes to everyone. I make any edits or corrections, and provide that to the college for the records. I do the same thing for the College of Business and Technology. I am the, what do we call ourselves now? We just changed our name to the Association of Supply Chain Management. I'm not sure that's gone through officially, but that's the overall thing. Before we were APICS, the APICS student chapter coordinator.
Somebody was telling me about that.
Yeah, I'm the faculty sponsor for that. I am on this thing called the Faculty Council for Academic Affairs, which is which was a bigger deal than I realized when I volunteered for it. So that was pretty intimidating. But we are the last stop in the chain before the provost for any kind of like academic program changes, program modifications, course proposals, etc. It all goes through us.
Wow.
So like I said, I didn't know what I was signing up for, but it's pretty cool to like have the provost come to the meeting, and give us his update or whatever, and then we provide recommendations to the provost. So
yeah, plus it's pretty cool to like have the provost here,
Yeah. So, I mean, I'm the most junior member of a big group of people, like 15 people or something. So It doesn't go to my head. Don't worry. But it's, again, it's cool. And it's fun to deal with these like university level issues. For example, we talked about a possible wording change for what do we call a class that's online and has a set meeting time versus an online class that doesn't have a set meeting time.
Isn't that
what should we call those?
Synchronous?
Well, so the adjective separated from a noun. So how do you describe something versus what do you call it? Adjective wise, yes, it's synchronous versus asynchronous.
Yeah.
But then do you call it asynchronous course and just use the set of adjective plus noun as the new name? I'm in favor of that. But we just call them remote if it's synchronous, and we call it online if it's asynchronous.
You had to really think about that?
Yeah, we had a subcommittee that talked about it.
Oh, wow.
So like I say, there's a million things behind the scenes that students have no idea about.
Yeah, I never even thought about that. Not for a second.
So that's just one thing. Like we have all kinds of discussions like that, and it's little things, but they matter.
Yeah.
And so there, every little thing that matters, somebody on campus, and it's all faculty, by the way. It's all faculty. There are some, like there's staff, obviously, in various places, but you'll be surprised at how many people, there are people that I wouldn't have thought, I thought that was a staff member, is actually faculty. And they do research and they teach classes. And so like the librarians are quite largely like have at least a master's degree. A lot of them have PhDs, and they do research in library sciences. And I didn't realize.
Yeah. Even to work like Chicago Public Library. Yeah.
Pretty credible. Yeah. And so I have had to apologize to my librarian colleagues because I just didn't know. I was totally ignorant. And I had in my cohort was one of the library faculty, and she's fantastic. And so, she taught me a lot about what they do, and not necessarily like in a one-on-one, but just like being around her and getting to know her as part of the group. I learned a lot more, that they do a lot more than I realized. So, wow. Like I say, there's some, if you see something happening on campus, there's faculty behind it, and they're teaching a full load. Like, there's not very many people who get exemptions. It's pretty much like department chairs and up. Everybody else is teaching.
No, it's funny because my girl, she always jokes like people that get art history degrees end up becoming professors, and like they just fall into it. And I don't know. It sounds like you made the conscious choice to become a professor.
Oh yeah, I wanted to teach. So, and that was so I actually worked as a teaching assistant for a year, I think, and I really enjoyed it. Like, grading's miserable. No one likes grading, but I loved working with students.
Isn't that technically homework?
What do you mean?
Like the way a student has homework and they're like, ugh, I got homework. That's how someone would see grading.
Yeah, but then add like a cheese grater on your forehead. I mean, it's horrible. Like,
that's funny.
So think of it this way. Like, if a student gets 100, check, circle it, you're done. Yeah. Super easy. But if someone has no clue what they're doing and they leave it blank, also easy. X, circle it, and you're done. But that's not most students. Most students are in the middle. And so there's usually some person who mostly knew what they were doing, which means their work looks mostly right, but the answer's wrong. And you have to figure out what they did wrong and why they did it that way. What were they thinking? And so you're playing this deductive reasoning game for like 15 hours at a time.
And then you got to judge, like, is that a 68 or a 68.5? Yeah. But it's kind of a 70.
Yeah. And you'll have two people who have almost an identical paper, and one of them will be a 65 and one will be a 70. Because just like this one word here tells me that you were thinking this, whereas that student was thinking this. And so your thought process were very different. And even though the output looks almost identical, it represents a different product. Like your understanding, your mastery are different. And is that reasonable? Maybe not. But we have no way to know what you're actually thinking. All I can see is what's on the paper, and I have to do my best. There's actually been some research into consistency of grading. Both if a person has like 100 of the same assignments, and there's 3 of them that are identical, are they going to grade those 3 identical papers the same way? No, generally not reliably. Like sometimes, yeah, but like every time, no.
Range, right?
Oh yeah. But then, so that's like that's a person's consistency. We call that repeatability. And then you have I think normally it's repeatability versus reliability in quality control. So I'm applying that to the circumstance. So reliability would be, can you put in a different person to do the same job and get the same outcome? So if I grade these 3 all the same and they're all a 70, if you grade them, are you going to get a 70 as well? Or are you going to be higher or lower? And the research shows that like it's not real repeatable or reliable. That grading is just incredibly subjective, and that's not a good thing. But we don't have an alternative.
Wow.
So what I've done is combined. Hey, we're online anyway, so I do most of my assignments are online, and I try to make them as much as I can computer graded. The downside is there's no partial credit. The upside is I give them multiple attempts so that they can learn what they did wrong and take it again. And so hopefully they'll go like 60, 70, 80. Whereas if they did it one time, they would have gotten a 70. because of partial credit, but now they get to have an 80. But in exchange, they had to take the thing 3 times and they had to learn in between. And so it ends up being more work for the student, but they learn more and they get a better grade out of it.
Which is what they want, right? They just want to pass and go back to sleep.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's just the survival mode for most students, especially at NEIU, right? They've come here because they want an education, but they got to survive. And that's just, especially now, is not easy. So, I mean, like I have students that, have little bits of cheating regularly. And I tell them, like, I can't allow it, but I don't condemn you for it. I totally understand.
Yeah.
I can't let this slide. But I'm not going to count this assignment, but I'm not going to like turn you into academic affairs. Just don't do it again.
Yeah. And yeah. You know what's crazy is I think it was high school that I was cheating on a math assignment, I guess. You know what? I was totally copying an assignment because we have one every single day, right? And I was just like, dude, give me your paper. Let me copy it. And this other professor took me to the dean's office, took my backpack, and just threw every single thing out. And yeah, that's not something you do for like one assignment out of 65, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I mean, I was in college too, right? Was there ever an assignment where I was like stuck on one thing? I was like, dude, just tell me how to do it. Yeah, of course there was.
Academic integrity is important. Otherwise, you don't learn nothing,
Yeah, and the truth, the way that I look at it as an instructor, right? So this is not just like I'm taking pity on myself. I look at it as a continuum that if you sit in a room and you've never talked to anyone else, then obviously you haven't cheated. And then if you take someone else's work and you didn't even try and you copy it bit from bit, that's obviously copying.
Yeah.
But if you've worked together the whole time, where does it start being copying? If you work on it and you work on it together and like this person figures it out and you've been talking it through the whole way, do you get to be like, oh, well, no, I can't use your work? You can't even figure it out on your own now because you already know the answer.
Yeah.
So do you just not write it down? Like, well, that seems pretty ridiculous. So at what point did we start calling it like cheating? Personally, I don't know. And I don't care to try and guess. I'll be like, hey, if it's egregious,
stop it.
Stop it, And I try to make it difficult to cheat. So there's like multiple versions of things and whatever, but it's never going to be a flawless system. And I tell my students, okay, if you cheat, I'll do my best to, within reason to make it difficult. And if you cheat beyond that, the only person you're cheating is yourself.
Yes, that is true. That is very true. Speaking of that, I have to read all of my assignments. I haven't even, oh my God. It's been
Yeah, there's always, especially these days, it just seems like there's always a laundry list of things. So, I have this whiteboard over my shoulder, and I used to use it for teaching, but the dean, Dr. Bedell, was kind enough to get me a writing tablet, so I can.
Oh, nice.
So it's like it was surprisingly cheap, actually. So it's
like a Surface Pro. Oh, and the chair fell.
Trying to lean too far.
Oh my God, are you okay, dude? You fell?
Yeah. Well, I was already like on the ground, so that's why it fell in the first place.
Oh my God. You have students that depend on you, man.
That's right.
Gotta be safe.
I was trying to pick this up off the ground, and it's way over there. So I was like,
oh, you were like,
I was like upside down stretching. So, I have a little pen, and this thing doesn't have a screen. It's just so it plugs into my keyboard, and I can just like write on it. So anyway, all I have to say,
I've never seen that. That's so cool.
I hadn't either. I thought it was pretty cool. So, and it works great. I really like it. And when he's like, I'm going to buy you a tablet. I was like, that's so expensive. And I was like, don't do that. Like, it's not worth it. I'll just write on the whiteboard. It'll be fine. But they're like, yeah, it's like $20. I was like, what? Okay, then yeah, hit me up. Like, come on, let's go. So, but I usually have this as my to-do list, and I have to keep it color coded and stuff because I can't keep track of everything. So
yeah, I feel that too.
So I can relate.
Do you want to talk about stochastic supply and demand?
Sure.
I tried looking it up, and I figure you're you know it.
Yeah, so it's stochastic. So it's something you learn about academics is we love big words for
Yeah.
simple ideas.
Yeah.
So we have these two words, stochastic,
Mm-hmm.
which is the opposite of deterministic. And oh, doesn't that just sound nice? Which is why we use them, because you could just say uncertain and certain.
Yeah.
That doesn't
Oh, can I
sound.
give you what I think it is?
Yeah, hit me up.
All right. Stochastic planning, in a nutshell, planning for a range instead of a single number.
Exactly. That's an excellent
Right?
description. Yeah, exactly. So the question, it's basically managing uncertainty.
Mm-hmm.
So you're managing the uncertainty of the future. That's what stochastic decision making is all about.
Mm-hmm.
And so in my case, so the rest of the title of my dissertation is telling you, one, what uncertainty we're talking about, and two, how I'm solving it, how I'm approaching the problem. So in my case, I do research in disaster relief literature, which is a subspecialty of humanitarian logistics, which is a subfield of regular logistics. So there's sort of this umbrella that's happening, which I can tell you some more about that, some fascinating things that are happening now, because humanitarian logistics blew up largely around 2003 with the Indian Ocean tsunami. And then shortly thereafter, in the US, like the Western world kind of ignored it because of how white people are towards, like third world countries were kind of horrible. And then it hit, literally home in New Orleans, as we were talking about before with Katrina. And then white people were like, oh, we should probably pay attention. It affects white people now. It's like, maybe if you weren't horrible, we would have been paying attention a year ago. But, racism being what it is. No, I'm not bitter about it.
Not at all. You sound like it a little bit.
No,
I mean, I am.
I have a lot of like repressed anger about it because of, I think, like my upbringing, ignoring, like having such a terrible upbringing about it, is made me realize like just the way like talking to my family now about it drives me crazy, and I'm a little triggered. Anyway, okay, on topic. So point being, it's been this big thing, and so research terms like 15 years is a short time. Where it's like 15 years, because it takes like 2 to 3 years to publish a paper most of the time. From like start to finish, it takes 2 to 3 years usually. So 15 years is only like 5 paper cycles. It's not that long. But people are feeling like we've kind of hit the highlights on it, and so we're starting to look for more interesting fields. So there's some really cool stuff I could tell you about. But anyway, point being for my paper that we're dealing with, once you have a disaster, there's a lot of problems that come, damaged infrastructure. There's no power, there's no roads, there's no hospitals. A lot of warehouses are destroyed. So any goods like food, medicine, blankets, things like this, dogs. Hi, Jasper.
People lose their dogs.
So all that's destroyed. And so the challenge becomes, how do you get what is needed to the people who need it, where the people who need it are, fast enough to help them?
Yes.
And because again, like infrastructure is destroyed, and if it's in a place that's relatively accessible, it's not too bad. If it's like the center of Kansas, we will get there. But if it's an island,
Puerto Rico,
Puerto Rico example, the only like big enough airport for a freighter to land on is destroyed. Now what?
Yeah,
is the legitimate question. It's like, we don't just give up. So now what? And so there are, it's very difficult to attack this problem at a large scale. So you'll see a combination of some people who do, but then they're dealing with large like aggregates, and they're not looking at the minutia, the details. And so that's what my co-author and I chose to do. This is my dissertation. So this is what I wanted to do, is look at the actual details of looking at the vehicle, like specifically vehicle level, individual care package, we call them, of like food and water, medicine, blankets. So we're making an assumption here, we call it a simplifying assumption, that we're not tracking individual products separately. We're just saying like there's a warehouse and we're packing up care packages for people and distributing them.
So what do you know about? Oh, I'm sorry. We're gonna.
Well, yeah. Let me finish this last thing. Is that this would be an easy problem if we knew what supplies we were going to have and what people needed it. But one of the biggest problems that we have in disasters is a lack of communication, because your cell towers are knocked out, and we don't have landlines very much anymore. So, and those might be knocked out as well if they're not buried. So you may have no means outside of satellite phones to communicate. And so Sure, like the responders are going to have those, but are the every person in their home going to have one? No, obviously not. So at best, we have an estimate of what what people need.
Your
And
paper.
as the time goes on, we learn more about what they need. But at first, we have pretty much no idea,
Mhm.
and we're just guessing. So we have that's called uncertain demand because we don't know what people need, where they are, what they need, how much of it,
And
and
when?
then we're largely donation driven. So what supply are we going to have? We don't know. Or even worse, maybe we have a shipment coming, but how are they going to get here? When are they going to get here? Does it need to be unpacked? Probably. Oh, by the way, that packaging is in Russian. Can anyone here read it? No? Well, awesome. So
Wow.
there's a million problems that can cause uncertainty on the supply end. So here we are trying to meet an uncertain demand with an uncertain supply. How do you do that?
And your paper is figuring out a portion of it?
You never tackle it all at once. And so we were the first people to ever do that. And that's part of what the paper does is argue no one's ever solved this problem before. So we set it out and then, we basically proved, yeah, this is a really hard question. And here are some circumstances in which
Okay.
here are some strategies that work well. And here are the circumstances under which they work well. And so you're able to prove that. So like rigorously with math, like this is good, this is not good. Here are the circumstances when this particular strategy is ideal, or we call it optimal. And so just like really rigorously proving these kinds of things. And so now I have a couple other papers that I've written that are beginning to expand upon that. Because at first it was all we could do to have a single place a single place that the care packages were being made. So
Mhm.
of course items are coming in and then they have to be like assembled. So we had one of those and then we had a single place to distribute our packages. And we had to transport them from the preparing area, the staging area to the place of distribution. And that was all we considered. And that was a hard problem. And it was complicated enough and difficult enough that we got published in a really good journal. So it's representative of how hard research is. That something that might sound that simple is actually that hard.
Do you hear
It
the
took us
dogs?
like a year and a half to figure it out.
Can you hear the dogs?
A little bit, but it's not
Um, you know what
disruptive.
is so interesting? You know what's so interesting is that um me being Puerto Rican, when the Puerto Rican earthquake hit, or when no, hurricane, right?
Hurricane. Yeah, I was
Hurricane
like earthquake.
now or a few weeks ago. It really did break my heart because it felt like everybody was just left. And I don't know, dude. You gotta invite me when you write that paper. I'll read it, figure out what I can do to help.
Well, we always like having helpers. So if you're
Yeah,
ever
dude.
find yourself with too much time, I can probably find something for you to do.
Research?
Yeah.
I don't know about research, man. I could barely read my assignments.
Well, I think like I illustrated earlier is I'd have to teach you how the process works.
Right.
But I think there's something that happens when people have like certifications, like you're a doctor or something that makes us mysterious. That's totally undeserved,
Yeah.
And it's like, why do you think you couldn't learn to do research? Okay, maybe you're not mathematically inclined and experienced enough because you have to have the skills. Like it's a skill-based thing, right? So you have
Yeah.
to go through the training to learn the skills. And then there's some people where they just don't learn it very quickly, and it's just not worth the time and effort it would take to become skilled enough to do like high level research. But for most people, you can at least help. Almost anyone can help. And I
Even
don't
if it's just
mean,
like finding books.
well, it's actually in some ways it's easier than that. So one of the first steps is just to study what exists in the literature. And even that in itself can give you ideas. There are papers that exist that all they do is study the literature and give a good summary.
And
And if you're fortunate enough to find one of those that's updated, you're done.
and you get more than a week to do it, right?
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, I think I've been thinking about this now at what I'm going to do next, and so I still have some things to finish up with these papers, so I'm not done yet. But what am I going to do after that? I just want more curiosity at this point, and it would be a pivot for me to do what I want to do, which is I'm talking to that same co-author at DePaul, Dr. Nezi Altai. he gave a presentation at a conference the last time I went to one of those things, so fall 2019, I guess.
Yeah.
About how we are using supply chain resiliency theory to attack human trafficking networks. And I was like, say that again and break it down slowly for me. Okay, supply chain resiliency. So you're looking for vulnerabilities in a supply chain. Oh my God, that makes sense. So rather than looking for vulnerabilities, and that's what supply chain resiliency is all about, is saying what can go wrong? What's the weakness in my system here? I'm trying to get raw materials from here, it's processed over here and made into a final product here and goes to my customers. Okay, so where in that link, what link in that chain can go wrong? And we're trying to fix that to shore up the weaknesses, right? But now we're saying, what if we turn that on its head and we're applying this to a system we want to break? How do we break it?
That's interesting.
How do we break the networking chain? Because, okay, if you stop the girls from being abducted in the first place, great. But maybe that's really hard. And maybe we can go one step down the line and we can cut them off there. And I'm just captivated by that idea. I think it's fascinating. But I've never done supply chain resiliency before. I've studied supply chains and I've studied resiliency, but I've not done it in one piece, and certainly not in this context. So what would it take for me to be up to speed and able to start contributing to the literature? How long would it take me? Probably, it depends on the methodologies involved, but if it's just application area, so just like putting it into a new package, a few weeks.
Really? Wow. Yeah. Where do people come up with these ideas? Like, that sounds
Bars.
You said Mars?
Bars.
Bars.
I'm partially teasing, but we go to conferences and there's a reason they serve hors d'oeuvres and alcohol and get people talking, and it's honestly, it's probably the most fun part of the conference. It's just eating finger food and
drinking and hanging out.
Yeah. And then it's just like, and some of it is like catching up with your friends, but then what starts to happen, and I realized that somehow in my business education, I misunderstood what networking was. But I figured it out by going to conferences. And that is, like one person, and that person knows other people. And you talk to that one person and you tell them what you're doing. And she goes, oh, that sounds like this person I know. And then she walks you over and you get introduced. And now you know that person. And voila. And so that's what happened to me. You just find the person who's like the loudest in the room and you go meet them because they're going to know everybody else. And it's like the whole elevator pitch thing, I think, is kind of weird because
agreed.
Most of the time, I don't think students have something specific enough that's going to like really catch somebody's attention. Sure, there are circumstances, but most of the time, I think it works better to just talk to somebody, just get to know them. And so that's kind of the first step. But all this to say, to answer your question is, people just go and get a barbecue sandwich and they're like, tell me what you're doing. And they go, oh my God, that's fascinating. That's kind of like what I'm doing over here. And then boom, there's something new. Or you look at literature and say, what are people doing? Oh, they're doing this and they're doing this, but no one's doing that. So what would that look like? And then boom, you've got something massive. And so I can give you an example of that, but that would probably be harder to explain than it's worth. But there are some times where it's like, how has no one thought of that? That is game changing. And so like I mentioned supply chain resiliency, and that there was a presentation I saw like that where a faculty at Alabama had given this as part of his application to be a faculty member. And he presented that basically like, we saw people doing this and people doing this, and we realized that no one was doing that. We started working on it and realized it was essential. And he was right. I was like, how has no one thought of this? This is obviously important. And so they're published in like a top journal, like one of the, probably the most elite journal, because it's like
genius.
Yeah, it's the thing when you hear it and you're like, how did no one know? How did we not do this? Like, how has this gotten by us? It's that essential. So it can come from anywhere.
Kind of like, this bread thing we got? What if we like sliced it,
and put like ham and cheese on it? Yeah. I'm tired of washing plates. What if I just like cut the bread in half and then like put cheese and bread in the middle?
And then you just walk around,
Yeah. It can actually be like that. Of course, it's nowhere near as delicious, but you get the idea. But it's funny. Like I said a bar. That's kind of a joke, but really more like restaurants is really common. Yeah. I mentioned Dr. Altai. I don't think I've ever had a meeting with him in person that I wasn't at a restaurant.
Really?
Yeah, I met him at like a Starbucks once. barbecue place once and the German place downtown. I forget what it's called.
I don't know.
But like, I mean, I've talked to him like on Zoom and stuff, but I've not email, whatever. I correspond with him somewhat regularly, but I don't think I've ever met him in person where we haven't been eating.
That's what I miss the most. Like meeting up with somebody and have dinner.
Yeah.
What are you
Yeah.
gonna do once this pandemic's over?
I don't know.
Once you can teach in person, hang out in person.
That's going to be nice. Yeah. So my fiance and I are getting married in October.
Oh,
And so that's really exciting. It kind of sucks that so that's the middle of the semester. We're not going to go on a honeymoon. So I can't really get away to do that. So we're going to go on a trip. We're hoping we're going to go on like rent an RV or something and just drive around the country and see what's open. Like go to national parks and stuff, like away from people. That's the idea.
away from students and great.
I mean, just from a COVID safety standpoint, like just trying to, we're not going to go to downtown of a city and let's go walk around and just transport COVID from one city to the next, so
New strain of COVID coming.
Yeah, single-handedly carried the several new strains of aggressive COVID. Yeah, let's not do that. So
you don't
all I
think
have to say
over by then?
So the plan, as I've been told, is that they're hoping to have enough inoculation, enough injections, in the middle of the summer. So like June, July, I think. But then it'll take a few weeks before we really see the consequences of that. And so we picked an October wedding for the entire purpose that, well, A, we like fall, but B, we think that's going to be like the soonest that we'll really be able to see the consequences of all the vaccinations.
Yeah.
So we don't know. Obviously, there's a tremendous amount of uncertainty, and I'm not that kind of doctor, and I'm not involved in
epidemiology,
right? Right. So somehow my fiance's family, like, they seem unassuming to me, but then like one of them is in charge of vaccine distribution for Michigan, and the other one is like second in command in some medical office in DC, like for the government. I'm like, wait.
And they're not.
Yeah, so your family is just like casual AF. Like, is that what I'm hearing? It's like, what?
Yeah, dude, you seem like a bright guy, but I don't think you can see the future, can you?
I only very short amounts. For example, I'm about to slap the desk.
Ah, right. See?
Prediction. I could have sneezed, could have gone wrong, but I'm pretty bad about saying like, even like I'm gonna do this is still not a guarantee. Like, especially if it's more than 2 hours away. It's like, who knows?
Yeah, dude.
So
well, to a slightly lower degree, if you say like, oh, I'm gonna eat something in an hour. And,
going vague. That's definitely a way to go. I enjoy reading fantasy fiction. I like nonfiction and things as well, but I like just kind of checking my brain out and just being like, I don't have to learn anything. Look, it's an elf with a sword. Cool. And so that's like, it's my way of like, like it's my way of unwinding. So I have an Audible subscription, and I almost exclusively listen to like audiobooks only. I'm listening to one on psychology right now. So that's like, if I want my brain to be involved, that's what I'm doing. Otherwise, I've got this huge fantasy series. There's 31 books in the series.
Wow.
And they're talking about, they're like, fortune tellers are BS. If you make a vague enough prediction, of course it'll come true eventually. Like, it's going to rain later. I guarantee it will. Eventually, it will rain. Even in a desert, it will eventually rain a little bit, at least. So
eventually.
So you're right. Yeah, just I will eventually eat again. I certainly hope so. But if not, I presume I won't be around to care. So
let me ask you this. Do you own stock in GameStop?
I'm so glad you asked. I don't.
Oh, man.
I don't think I do anyway. So I have a family friend. I'm going to show my white privilege here. I have a family friend who started a investment management company. So not like, don't think like the people we're going after with GameStop. No. Just like a family friend who had a good financial mind, and so people pay him to like pick their stocks for them, basically. So it's financial management, not a hedge fund, but he's an investment advisor, I think is his official title. And so my parents had some money set aside for me for college, and
You
they
got a
basically
full
told
ride, right?
I got a full ride. So they basically told me like, we'll help pay for your food and rent, and anything of this fund that you don't use, you can keep. So I was like, well, shit, okay.
Wow.
So I think I ended up getting a job as like part of like an internship thing. Um, I was able to pay for the rest of my college after my second year. So third year onward, I could pay for myself.
Wow.
But which kind of sucked. Like I would take a semester off and work, and then I'd like, yes, I have money, and then I would go back to school, and then I didn't, so
Yeah.
just use it all like
Watch
living.
it
It's like, ah,
dwindle.
God, being alive's awful. This sucks.
Yeah.
It's like, but I'm joking entirely, because I cannot complain that I was in that position, that all I had to do was take a semester off, go to an internship. I was working in my field, gaining experience, which is invaluable.
Hmm.
And it took care of, I made enough extra money. Not only could I make ends meet that semester, but I could pay for the next one as well. I mean, that's incredible.
That is.
And I was so lucky to do that. And so anyway, all I have to say is I had a few $1,000s my parents had given me, essentially. Which, oh God, I feel sick to my stomach saying that. I see that picture of Donald Trump being like, I got a small loan of $1 million from my
God.
dad. And I'm just like, God,
Except he doesn't say the rest of the part where it's like after he died, he gave him 400 million.
yeah. Anyway, so that's how I feel saying that. I'm like, God, I feel like Donald Trump, and that's not something I want to say.
You seem like
Anyway, so all I'll just say is, so what my parents did is they basically said, like, we're gonna give it to the family friend, and he'll look after it.
okay.
And so I was like, great. So sounds good. I haven't touched it. It's the start of my retirement fund now.
Nice.
And so I do own some stocks, but like a couple dollars of this and a couple dollars of that. And I have a list. Actually, he just sent me a report that I need to, it's my audit from last year. So
Yeah,
I need to go over that. Obviously things went like this last year.
Yeah.
So who knows, but all I have to say is I feel like I kind of want to be part of this, but of course
Part
I
of the
can't
meme.
buy it now.
Well, I mean, Robinhood only lets you buy one share at a time, or two shares or something.
Which is,
I have strong opinions. You don't have to say.
I want to, but I'm not sure what to think. Like, I don't know. Tell me what you think about it.
So I feel as if wealthy people, have exploited not just this country, but every part of the globe for their own financial gain. And I feel like us common people, I mean, your dad's doctor, but he's not a billionaire, I assume.
Oh, I wish, but no.
And they made a bet. They made a bet that the company was going to go under, and they lost their bet. And now they want to get politician help. They want to get company help, other hedge funds, doing everything they can to not let common people like us win.
Yeah.
So I feel personally as if they do the same thing as 2008 and bail them all out, I think this is one thing that every 99.9% of people can get behind.
Yeah. Well, so I'll say this, that I have no question agreeing with you on that. I have no issue with that. My only hesitation, like the only alternative that I see, is that I'm not sure if or if not what Reddit has achieved would be considered market fixing, because it's one of those things where it's like I think the result is actually hysterical. And I think it's hilarious. But I'm not sure that the means were legal. But I'm also not, I'm like, if a bunch of people are like, hey, let's buy stock, is that market fixing? Like, to me, market fixing is a lot more what the hedge funds have done, where they just like short a tremendous amount of stock. Like, that seems more like fixing than a bunch of people being like, haha, this would be funny. And I read this report about it, and apparently like the stock price was already like way lower than it probably should have been to begin with. Mm-hmm. And so the fact that they're still shorting is evidence that they're fixing the market. So if someone, so the story as it was presented to me from a Reddit user, obviously biased, was that
Reddit user,
was that the Reddit user who started this whole thing recognized that this manipulation was occurring. Mm-hmm. And so they said, hey, all we have to do is call their bluff, and we kill them for this. Mm-hmm. And we make a killing off of it, because they are manipulating the market, and they're trying to push the price down below where it should be. So buy it when it's low, and they lose, the price goes back up. I don't think that's essentially what Warren Buffett teaches in his financial investment book, the really famous one from the 80s. I forget the name of it. It's not gonna come to me. But there's like the most famous book of investing by Warren Buffett. It was written in the 80s. So it's been reprised like 12 times. Anyway, that's his idea. It's just look at the stock value, buy it when it's below the value. That's the book in a sentence. Sorry, I spoiled it for you. So
if you ever
now, of course, did he say now tell all your friends and convince them to help you bump this price up? No. So that part's a little sketchy, but overall.
But isn't the internet kind of now like the public square? Like they're trying to say you can say whatever you want. And if you just say, hey guys, just so you know, I'm buying GameStop because it's funny. Well, then what can you really do, right?
Yeah. Like I say, I'm not sure, because on one hand, like I think I could make a case for either one.
Yeah. Well, if you halt trading entirely, I think we know which side is which. Come on.
Yeah. Well, and that's the other thing is, I think that's where it gets really clear, is that, maybe it's like a two evils sort of thing, where you're fighting evil with evil. Maybe it looks that way until they're like, oh, you can only sell. Like we're limiting what you can do. It's like, okay, now that's okay. Now it's two evils and one evil. The scale's just on. I'm sorry. Like,
yeah, dude. I had to pay school tuition from last semester because what's the word when you don't do it? What's the word where you save it for the last minute? Procrastinate.
Oh, procrastinated.
Yeah.
I was like, you mean like a specific financial aid term? I have no idea.
I procrastinate so hard, and I don't know. I get anxiety just thinking about it. So I didn't pay my school tuition until like 2 weeks before, and that's when GameStonk started going, and I'm so salty about it, dude. I wish I could be a part of the meme.
Yeah.
Honestly, my next paycheck, I might buy one share at $300, just because.
Is it up to? No, it's not.
I will tell you exactly what it is right now.
No, wait.
Yes, I'm serious. GameStop, as of this moment, is $312.01 per share.
Oh my!
For a market cap of $17.33 billion. This week, or whenever, it had a high of $413.98.
That's so funny. Oh my god. Maybe I shouldn't be laughing, but I am. I'm not sorry.
Well, the difference between like $3 billion and $1 billion isn't too much. Like, it's just numbers in a computer at that point. The difference between like 100 grand and like 400 grand, it's a big difference.
I've seen too many memes. It's kind of been clogging my field, like my like inbox or whatever. But it's like, hey, don't make light of this. Like this is hurting people who own multiple boats.
Oh, I've seen that meme. I've seen that.
But I also saw one that was like this kid, his grandmother or something gave him like a couple shares of GameStop for some religious observance, I think, or like a birthday or something, and he turned it in and made like 50 times the original price.
It makes me happy. Plus, let's be honest, GameStop might go out of business, but this will be a case study.
Yeah, I think there will be interesting papers written on this. Maybe I should just set up a saved search in Google Scholar, just GameStop.
Exactly.
In fact, I'm gonna do it.
How much time do you have? Been at this for a while.
Have we? I haven't really noticed. I have a clock right above my camera, but I have a stream light.
Okay. Yeah, I think I know what you mean.
So I have it right next to the clock, so I have to
yeah.
kind of squint to see it. So, I mean, I'm enjoying myself. I know you have another interview coming up, so I don't want to hog too much time.
Yeah, but not for like an hour and a half. But I do actually want to prep for these interviews because it's not like me and my friends hanging out.
Yeah, sure. Fair. Well, I'll tell you about I want to tell you about one fun story. So I have two things and I'm gonna tell you about them. And that's because I'm at a third one. So I like to use this for 2 truths and a lie.
Okay.
So I tell my 2 truths and a lie. So the 2 truths that I always use, that I used to own a motorcycle. In fact, I own 4, not at the same time, but like different ones.
Yeah.
I sang the national anthem, the inaugural national anthem at the University of Alabama baseball stadium. And then I make up something else that sounds like
those
pretty
2 are
reasonable.
real?
Those are the real ones.
Oh my God. Yeah, those are out there.
I know. People are like, this guy? No. They're like, those are both ridiculous. How can either of them be true? Rob, it's 2 truths and a lie. You got it wrong.
Not 3 lies.
So what I usually do is bait them with something that sounds obvious. Like, I was born in Knoxville, Tennessee or something. And they're like, well, that one's obvious. That one's easy. And I'm like, ha. Anyway, so had motorcycles. Admittedly, not much of a story there. A little one, but I'll skip that. The more interesting part is the national anthem. So I had some friends from music school that joined a barbershop chorus. And I was like, guys, I know that you're dorks, but did you have to declare it to the world? Like you could have hidden it before, but now it's on Facebook. Like you can't get away from this, this was like 2013, right? So Facebook was like the social media law, you know? So I was like, guys, there's no getting out of it now. Like it's official. You know? Yeah. And so they were like, come try it. It's way more fun than you think. And I was like, well, probably, because my estimation, rock bottom, so, okay. And so like, I wouldn't go. And then my friend baited me. He hit me with what have you got going on tonight? On like a Friday night. It was like Friday, right? So I'm lulled. I'm like, end of the week. All right. Hey, the boys getting together. What are we going to do? I don't know. It could be fun. Maybe play Kirby Air Ride. I don't know. We have a good Super Smash Brothers. We could go crazy. It's 2013. Anything could happen. And they're like, oh, we've got some guys getting together. I was like, you want to come over? And I'm like, yeah, sure. That sounds fun. Oh, we've got some guys coming over to sing barbershop. And I'm like, I already said I would go. And he heard me like balk and be like, like, no, you said you could come. You're coming. And I was like, oh, damn it. And so I showed up and I was there for about 3 minutes and I was hooked.
Really?
I was like, this is nothing what I imagined. Like I've seen videos of barbershop singing, and this was not what it's like. Like the barbershop society, the skill has gone through the roof in the last like 10 or 15 years. And so the best people in the world are incredible. They are, it's nothing like you can get anywhere else in the world. Which I can nerd out about like the physics of sound, why it works and what they're doing. And essentially you can, by being really well in tune, you can make the effect that there are more people singing than there actually are. And it's not just like volume, but like pitches. You can create new frequencies that you can hear audibly. It's incredible. Anyway, so all this to say, go ahead. No, go ahead.
All I want to know is, did you have to wear a striped jacket and like the straw hat,
So there is one quartet that won the international competition a couple years ago that does do old school. They wear boaters and like tap dance, and they're actually made up of Disney employees, believe it or not. The lead singer in that quartet is one of the chorus conductors for Disney.
Wow.
And so there are some people in this organization. It's surprising. Yeah. Anyway, so
on the side too.
Yeah. Oh, I know. Just casually, like an incredible singer, by the way, and so they would sing like Disney medleys and stuff that were just incredible. Anyway, beside the point. So I'm dodging your question a little bit. I'm trying to get to the fun part. Normally people just wear like a black shirt or a red shirt and a tie or something. Mm-hmm. If we're really frisky, a black shirt and a red vest. Oh, and I have a red and white striped tie. Looks like a barber pole. Oh, that's the closest we normally get. It's just dressing nice, basically. Mm-hmm. But when the University of Alabama did this construction on their stadium, rebuilt it, renovated it, made it much nicer, they contacted the barbershop society chapter in Birmingham, which is the state, not the state capital, but the largest city like in the area. Mm-hmm. And Birmingham actually said, you should call Tuscaloosa. Your local chapter is actually better than we are. Which is what used to be hotly contested. If there is such a thing as a barbershop rivalry, we had one. But we started poaching their members. And so then we got to be better than they were.
That's not cool, man.
I was not involved in this. I came in after. I'm innocent.
Right.
I swear.
You are innocent. Everybody else.
I was genuinely. I did actually come in after most of the drama. So, all joking aside, but so anyway, they're like, yeah, sure, cool. And it's local anyway. So, in fact, we rehearsed like 3 blocks from the stadium. So, because it's on campus. So it's like, yeah. So, do you guys want to sing a national anthem? And so we put together a double quartet, which we call an octet. So it's 2 people for each part.
I think my internet.
And then we got to go out and sing. But before we came out, they were like, "Ooh, I hear you, but I don't see you're frozen."
Yeah, the internet connection is unstable. I don't know. Give it a second.
I'm gonna move side to side.
No, I don't. Do I? Can you see me, buddy?
Oh no,
waving my arms like I just.
Mine's been kind of crap.
Oh, I see you moving. Okay.
I see you. Okay. So they called us and they're like, we're trying to, the whole theme here is we're trying to show that old is meeting new. This is not a new stadium. It's the same stadium, but it's new. It's polished. It's cleaned up. It's nicer. So we want it to be new, but we want to pay homage to our old history. So that's why we had we want the barbershop guys to come in. Do you have like ridiculously old stereotypical barbershop costumes? And I said no. But they're like, but then my chorus was like, but we can find them. And I was like, oh yeah, because I'm a dork. So I was like, heck yeah, let's just go crazy, just for old time's sake. Yeah. And so we all got like, pinstripey everything, like those flat hats or whatever, which are apparently really expensive and really fragile. Who knew? Wow. I didn't. But you can't just like hold it by the side; it'll just snap. So if you see the videos of the guys like doing like 2-handed things with them, you have to hold it that way, or it can just break. Fascinating. Anyway, so all this to say is, we put on these ridiculous costumes. I've got a old picture on Facebook somewhere, and it's pretty ridiculous. But
is there a video?
So that was pretty fun. That was. I need to go back and find one. I'm pretty sure someone filmed it, but I don't have a copy that would be easy for me to access, and I need it. Like,
yeah.
There's an old YouTube video of me on the news as part of the marching band, and I keep that saved on my YouTube playlist. So it's a really touching story because, as you probably don't know at this point, it's been long enough. Part of what motivated me to do disaster relief literature research is that a tornado hit our campus while I was there.
Oh wow!
An F4, I think it was F4 tornado, so like pretty big. It technically did not go through. It touched campus. It did not destroy campus, but it went through the center of town. And so, as you might imagine, it's a college town. So it's like the university and then the like main commercial area.
Yeah,
commercial area. It's like a mall and like a Five Guys. And the tornado went literally right through it, and like 86 people died, including some students and staff, and it was really scary. It was disaster, quite literally. Now we weren't the worst hit. Joplin, Missouri was the worst hit in that storm, but it was bad. And I actually did not know it at the time, but I volunteered at the same facility afterwards, helping out with like managing and disaster relief items, homage to come, with my advisor, because he actually got a copy of the records of like the volunteers for our research project, and we found both of our names on it. That we were there like together. So it was pretty fun. A little fun fact there. Anyway, so the point of that story as it relates to this is that the next football season, it was like 3 months later, it happened April 21st, 2011. Wow. And so they're like, go home. Everybody go home. Like, just everybody leave. Class is over. No finals. Just go home. Wow. And it was really scary. Everyone was freaking out. And obviously, like, some of my friends, they were in that area and their house came down on top of them. I mean, it was not good. Wow. And so we came back to campus, and our first show was a tribute to the fallen citizens of Tuscaloosa. And so we played Amazing Grace. And the instrument that I was marching is mellophone, which is like a French horn for marching, basically. Okay. So I switched I was a saxophone originally, and I switched over to brass section for my second thing, which is not super common. It took a lot of work for me to be able to do, but it was a lot of fun. And so we had the melody in Amazing Grace, and so there was this news post about how like this Saturday, the $1 Million Band is paying tribute to the fallen victims of the April 2011 or the April 21st tornado, and so now let's go and see them rehearse. And it cuts to me.
Oh shit.
And so it's really cool because it's just like, boom, I'm playing the melody. And it's like, I'm right there. And it was so like my Facebook was blowing up. People were like, oh my God, Rob, have you seen the thing? I'm like, what are you talking about? And they linked it to me. And it's like, fast forward to the part. It's like, I was like, oh my God, it's me. It's not like there's 17 people and I'm like in the middle.
It was just you. Oh wow. Well, you know what? That is super cool, but very uncool of how we got there, right?
Yes. Well, and I mean, I can't tell you enough that it's a tragic memory. I mean, it's not a happy memory. I got a funny YouTube story out of it, but it was not a good memory.
Oh.
But it had some interesting effects. So it really brought the city together. The football team, our kicker's girlfriend was killed in the tornado. And so it was sort of like the whole team was playing for the kicker and like playing for the city. And that's the year when we went and won the national championship and shut out LSU and the Superdome and
21-0.
21-0. Yeah, that was special. Like winning that year was incredible.
I watched that game live. Yeah. Oh shit. Wow.
It was special. But of course, you never want to have a tragedy like that.
Yeah.
To get something, it's not worth it. I was lucky, and I remember sitting on campus thinking, "Am I about to die?" Because the sirens are going off. Someone was shouting, "It's coming for campus!" Like
Sure.
We didn't know, and and it was terrifying. And I was lucky, but other people
like
weren't.
1920, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was really scary. So.
Oh wow. Well, that is very depressing. And
yeah. Well, how about I change the topic and I'll tell you one more thing. So for anybody who's watching, there is some pretty big news for the College of Business. I'm hard changing the subject here.
That's right, dude.
So the College of Business and Management is no longer. We are officially, as of I think December 15th, which is a little over a month ago at the time of recording. That is, we are now the College of Business and Technology because we have welcomed to our home the computer science folks from Arts and Sciences. So we're bringing in their expertise, their technical knowledge of computers and software. And so we're trying to work on some joint projects. And part of the reason that we invited them, so to speak, or longer story than that, but you get the idea. Part of the reason we wanted them to come is we were already working on some joint projects. So I helped develop the data analytics minor, which we worked with them on. And now that they're part of the college, we're building a joint program in data analytics. And we want to build a full major, but we're trying to have something ready for the fall catalog. And because of the way the governance process works, in other words, because of how approval is done, it's impossible to get a full major approved in that time. So we're compromising at this moment with a concentration. So it's not official because we have to pitch this to a number of different bodies, governing bodies. But we're starting on Monday, first pitch coming in next week.
Good luck.
And thanks. So the idea will be that we're building a concentration framework, or a skeleton as we're calling it, that can place on top of existing majors, or like kind of scoot inside of existing majors. So we're for business, the business side of things, it's looking like it's going to be either general business or under the management umbrella. And so you'll be able to take these data analytics courses and get a concentration in that. And then we're hoping that will be accessible to people across campus, different colleges, different majors, that, maybe there will be a biology data analytics, or, maybe we do a computer science one, or a math one, or, anything like that. And so we're trying to, as part of the purpose of Monday, is to convince them that our framework makes sense, but also to encourage collaboration across the campus. Wow. So that's something that's going on right now, and we're trying to get that built out and available. So we're running our first round of data analytics courses right now in the spring. So we're offering the 2 core classes for the minor right now.
And you're the professor, right?
For one of them. That's right. Yeah. So I helped design the course as part of designing the minor last year and the year before, which is why I mentioned I designed the course in 2019 because I chose the book, I chose the syllabus, I chose the everything. But that was in 2019, and 2020. Then 2020 happened. So everything changed. So,
well, I tell people all the time, come to school with me at Northeastern, and I don't know. I don't think I've gotten anybody to actually go.
Do we have a referral system? I've never
I
even
don't
thought
believe
about
so.
it.
I don't
We
believe
should.
Like,
why does if like, you know, Target app or whatever has referrals or something, I feel like the university should.
Idea board. Yeah, dude, that's a good idea. You get $100 off your general tuition if you refer a friend. Yeah, they
that sounds like an easy sell. I'll call it my boy Dennis. That's a joke, by the way, Dr. Rome. And tell him. Our administration is really welcoming. I think if I called him Dennis, I don't think he'd blink. I feel very uncomfortable calling him that. I will not call him that to his face. So hopefully he does not watch this episode.
You don't mind when people call you Rob?
No. Well, and that's kind of the culture, you know, but it's always hard. Like, it's easy to be the one who is like the position of authority and being like, hey, call me Rob. It's a lot different to be speaking to the provost who's like my boss's boss. Yeah. Hey, Dennis. Or even worse, like, hey, Gloria.
Or hey, D.
Hey, D. Wow. I don't know. So actually, Dr. Rome is a big fan of jazz. So the fact that I'm a saxophone player means that
you got it in.
I got it in. Yeah. And I was pretty impressed. So Dr. Gibson became president the same year that I came, or she started in the summer and I came in August because of different timings, but we started the same year. And I knew that, but I did not know that she knew that. And so I had this conversation shortly before the pandemic at some kind of like, I don't know, mixer thing we have every now and then. And it was Dr. Gibson, Dr. Rome, Dr. Bedell, and me. And I was like, I'm in the cool place. Look at this. And so I was like, I think it might have even been welcoming Dr. Rome. It might have been that party. I can't remember. Wow. That was like the party, the excuse for the party. And Dr. Gibson was like saying hello. I had just walked up to talk to Dr. Bedell, and Dr. Gibson was like, yeah, Rob and I came into the university together. And I was like, she knows me.
She knows me.
She knows who I am.
That's funny.
Which a Northeastern, I think it feels smaller than it is. It's not a small school, but it feels like a small school in all the good ways. And so I love it here.
Everybody's so accessible and so kind. Like I mean, I went to community college before this, and it was not the same. Everybody was like up in their office doing their thing. I don't know. But you gonna grow a beard, man?
Man, I wish. Yeah, I mean, so it's getting better. It's getting better. You can see a little shadow, a little bit
with a little facial hair, man.
Yeah. So here's the trick that I employ. I don't shave it all the way down.
Okay.
And so I give you the impression that I could grow a beard if I wanted to.
Yeah.
But actually I can't. So it just stops like right here. But it's like it's more of a go-to than it's ever been before. Like, you don't have to have the side straps, right? Although that's pretty popular these days. You can go without the sides and it looks okay. But it's not thick enough to really look good, mostly because I have like a little tiny little soul patch and then like a gap. And that's where it just gets like,
oh, yeah, same.
See, like with like, yours is a little wider there as well, but you've got plenty going on there. It's not like, oh, wow, he's 40% gap. That's right here. But that's unfortunately me. So yeah. So I try to leave a little shadow so it looks like I can grow a beard, but I actually can't. So it's a trick. Speaking of like, I don't think my pop filter does anything at all, but I leave it up because when people look at it, like, oh,
it looks cool.
He looks professional. Like,
yes, it does. I mean,
actually, I think we have a very similar microphone, although you've got a different stand for yours.
Here, let me mute myself as I move this.
Oh, I should have done the same thing.
Yeah, I got like the same basic one. It's a normal XLR mic.
Sick. It's been funny. Like so my dad is, I told you he knows everything, partially because he just like, he collects hobbies. That's how my mom calls it. He collects hobbies. So he has like random recording equipment laying around. Nothing like incredibly nice, but it's all pretty like decent.
Mm-hmm.
And so he hadn't used it in 10 years. And I said, hey, can I take your microphone? And he was like, yeah, sure. I'm not using it. So I got to have like an actual microphone to do my classes and stuff. And
it makes the biggest difference. People don't understand. Like just the headphone mic, like it doesn't.
oh no.
No, it doesn't project the voice. It doesn't do it justice.
No, and if I'm gonna like get on the microphone and like say something stupid, I need to make sure they can hear me. Like
Get all ASMR up in this piece.
It's funny you say that. I actually I was filming videos last semester, and I was between videos, like going over my notes for the next video and getting ready to film. And Cat came up for attention, and so he was like really happy, purring, and he kind of like made his way towards the mic. And I was like, oh, and so I hit record. And just let him like kind of curl around the microphone and like purr directly into the mic, and so I uploaded it to my class, and I was like, kitten ASMR optional video. Feel free to skip this. And it was my most watched video of the semester because there's YouTube analytics that say like what my videos were watched. That was the single, and I record like 8-10 videos a week, and that was the most watched video for the entire semester. But then again, this is what having students is like. Someone in my evaluations like went off on me for having a kitten ASMR video and like how ridiculous and unprofessional I was. And I was like, I'm just trying. I'm doing my best.
Well, you're nicer than me. I just say shut up. Dude.
Well, I can't talk back because it's an anonymous thing. I just get a report, like I don't know who said it. So it just it just hits, there's no bouncing it back. So
maybe a student will listen to this and be like, you know what? I was too hard on him.
Maybe. Well, and truthfully, I know nothing exists out of context, right? Everything has a context. And I mentioned that I was behind on grading and my students were frustrated. And some of them were more understanding than others. So some of them took it in stride and it was fine. Some of them were frustrated. And truthfully, I get it. So, and as you know, it's like if you have a headache, any little thing is just like, you can't handle it. I don't know if that's how I feel anyway. Sometimes, you're just like, my head hurts and now my printer's out of paper. I have to stand up and like walk 3 feet over there. Like, oh my, everything becomes dramatic. And so that's a terrible example, but when you're already frustrated about something, which is totally legitimate. And I'm not saying anything against those complaints. They're totally right. Mm-hmm. It makes other things, I was going to say perceived slights. What I mean is like other things that I have done to offend you in whatever form, to whatever degree, is exaggerated. It's like if you're already bruised and someone pokes you in the bruise, it hurts a lot more than it would have. They wouldn't even hurt at all. Yeah. But because it's bruised, it really hurts. And so I think that's probably a better metaphor that I should use is I've already bruised them through a couple other frustrations. And so this is something that was supposed to be innocent. And for most people, it was a funny video.
That's a funny way to say it. I've already bruised you. What's one push?
Yeah. Well, one continual push.
Constant moving of a person.
It wasn't my best semester, and I have my excuses, my reasoning as to why, but what matters it's the whole intention versus consequences versus results, and sure, my intentions were good, but the results wasn't, and results weren't, plural, results weren't. And so the students have every right to be upset about that. So
I mean, every single person was in the same exact boat. Everybody shut up was my motto, because I was doing a business calc online and I couldn't get it. And, I gave the professor a break. I just tried harder. That was pretty much it.
Yeah, I had like math online stuff when I was trying to do my calculus classes that I mentioned earlier, and it was really hard. Like
it is.
So I relate. It was weird. It was like an in-person class, but all of our homeworks were online. I was like, why?
Weird.
This is like 2014 or whatever. So this is way before the pandemic, right? This was like, I don't know. They just didn't want to grade us all, I guess.
Do you think that people will ever be obsolete? I've been having lately.
I think that's a super interesting question. I think ever, like future 1,000 years in the future, it's hard to say. I think in our lifetimes, I think the value of skill and idea synthesis, so like understanding of things and creativity, the value of that increases over time as, you know, manual labor, the value of that decreases over time. You know, increased automation, either from more
AI.
connectivity, so the Internet of Things
Yeah.
makes it easier for software to run things, but also even in like manufacturing facilities, robot, you know, mechanization is taking over slowly. So, you know, the less skill involved, the easier it is for a machine to take it over. And in some ways, the more precision that's involved, the easier it is for a machine to take it over.
Yeah.
So, you know, that's like a whole handcrafted does have a purpose. There are some things that you just kind of can't do by hand or you can't do with a machine, but that's getting increasingly small. So I think education will continue to grow in value, even though at the moment, like enrollments are shrinking because there's a bit of a saturation in the market um, for education, that because more people have degrees, the perceived value of a degree goes down. But I think that it'll swing back, that there will be an increased need for education as the skill threshold for positions goes up over time.
You know, this is kind of a morbid way to think about it, but do you remember 2008, I think it was, that people were like, "Oh, old people, older people are losing their jobs and they're just going to retire," but never did. Kind of morbid, but I feel like mostly old people are going to die off, and that's going to free up a lot of a lot of what you just said. Like the value is going to go back up for a degree.
Yeah. Well, and that's been an interesting, like a big problem of the aging workforce around the world, because especially with declining birth rates. I saw an article that in Japan, it was on NPR yesterday, on Japan, or this morning, doesn't matter. In Japan, the purchasing of incontinence diapers, so like adult and aging population incontinence, there's a better way of saying it, incontinence aids, I don't know, adult diapers, whatever you want to call them.
Oh, man, bro.
They're being bought more than baby diapers are.
That's
But of
so
course Japan has like a less than, it's like, I think it's like less than 1 birth rate, like it's really low. So anyway, point being that definitely aging population is up there, and yeah, I think it'll be really interesting to see. But of course, with the economy being like it is, and just like wage stagnation with but still rising cost of cost of living going up, and it's insanely how much more difficult it is to retire than it used to be. And so people who would have retired by now probably can't. And so yeah, I do not feel confident speculating about that future in the short term.
the next the next 20 years are definitely going to be interesting.
Yeah, one of the things that I question is there are some of the, like my parents' generation, our parents' generation, that have embraced technology, have embraced the change, and then there are others who haven't. And I think especially the generation before that have largely not embraced the change.
Yeah.
But I think that generation, you know, we're talking like they're in their 70s and up by now. So most of them aren't working unless they're faculty, and maybe they are. But pretty much anybody else.
They're tenured faculty. They're going to do it. Right.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's a low burden of physical need. You know, you stand in front of the classroom for a little while. So, and I don't mean to say anything about old faculty. That's not a joke about old faculty. That's just like, you can be a teacher forever.
Yeah, there's not a lot of manual labor. You carry your textbook.
Yeah. One of my favorite teachers I've ever had was 76. She was the oldest teacher in my high school, and she was incredible. So I don't mean to say that's not like a tongue in some joke about old faculty.
No, I feel that.
It's a joke about faculty in general.
Well,
anyway,
you are faculty, so you could kind
of. Yeah, so I can poke fun on myself.
Exactly. You're going to do it until you're 141.
Yeah, well, yeah, I have to work for, I think the number is 40 more. Oh, yeah, as of a few weeks ago, had a birthday. So now I've only got 40 years of work left. Or is it 38? I can't remember what the retirement age is. It's either 67 or 69.
Well, happy birthday, man. But I doubt you'll retire.
We'll see what happens.
I mean, except for the whole nonstop work. that you said.
Yeah, I'm hoping, and this is an off topic, but I'm trying to build things that are reusable so that I only have to build it once. And then, so I'm recording my lectures, for example, I don't have to refilm them.
That's
So
true.
I have an intro video that I film every semester where you kind of be like, hey, welcome, sucks about that snowstorm or whatever, and so it feels more engaging because it's actually you're talking to the students, you can address questions you've been seeing, things like that. And then you get into the actual, like, I call it content, like the actual lectures for that chapter. And if you're using the same book in the same edition, like there's no reason to re-record it. So just reuse it and then, engage with the students other ways. So,
That reminds me, did you ever see that meme of some lady on Twitter that was like, so the professor that's teaching, the recordings died 2 years ago, but he's my professor.
yeah. Well, I've told Dr. Bedell something that might be foolish, and that is that if I've done my job the way I think I've done my job, a TA could teach the course.
Well, that means you did a great job then, right?
Well, hopefully, because the idea is a TA does not have the skills and experience that I have. A TA can answer most questions, but a TA cannot answer every question. And so that's kind of the trade-off between like clinical faculty. So people who have a master's degree, worked in industry for 20 years, and now they're teaching, they have the wealth of experience regarding what it's like in the real world. I have had internships, I've had jobs, but I didn't do it in industry for 20 years. So I don't have that experience. But what I do have is a depth of understanding of the theory, the why and the how that an industry person wouldn't have. So there's a trade-off of skills there. So I'm not trying to say that I'm completely obsoleting myself, but I want the class to be really efficient. And kind of what I'm thinking is, it's getting harder and harder to be profitable as a university, just across the board. And I can see a world where and this might not work at NEIU for its own reasons, finding good TAs at NEIU is really hard. I won't get into why. Not because they're not good, they're just not available. Like everyone has a job already, So it's hard for a TA position to be appealing to students. That's what I'm trying to say. It does happen, but it's not as easy as it might be at another institution where students don't have to work 40 hours a week to support themselves and their family. So anyway, my point is that I could see a world where a well-designed online class, you could have TAs sort of like screening questions. And like the one faculty member is kind of running a team of TAs, and that team answers, a lot of the questions. And then anything that needs to be, elevated, and like customer service language needs to be elevated to the professor to handle, can be done. But you don't need the doctor. It's sort of like what doctors and nurse practitioners. You don't need like the doctor to do every little thing. So you have a nurse practitioner, which is like mostly is good in most things, and then they have like their own nurse, like nurse assistants or whatever, and so that we could take that kind of structure,
right?
Sorry.
And then they have their own medical assistant, and then the receptionist. Yeah, that's really interesting. Never thought of
so
that.
it's totally different and that doesn't work in a face-to-face model. That only works in online, because that's assuming I'm using pre-recorded lectures.
Well, also Northeastern is a commuter school, right? Like people, like you said, just don't have the time.
Well, and having a commuter school with online offerings is essential, because I have multiple students. I have 2 students right now that I know of that are in, I will say it this way, it's more than 7 time zones away.
Wow.
I don't want to say any more details, but that they are a long way. What am I facing? That way. And okay, it's annoying that we have like a class time that they have to worry about, and like trying to ask me questions is like the middle of the night for them. That's annoying, but a lot less annoying than trying to take a 6-hour, 8-10 hour flight each way, so
twice a week.
And on a more practical example, it's not uncommon for students to have at least a half an hour commute each way. That's common. 30 minutes is common. So, but telling the student, oh, by the way, if you'll put up with Rob's dumb jokes and his recorded videos, you can save yourself an hour each way.
But then you also have family members and dogs barking, and if grandma's coming over to vacuum, that's another way of thinking about it.
Well, we're opening a can of worms into my course design, but so I don't know. Are you familiar with the software Discord?
I heard you made a Discord.
You
I've actually never used it.
okay? I'm like, I'm not sure if I should be worried or impressed
No,
that
no,
you've
no, no.
heard.
I actually saw it on Rate My Professor. They were like, yeah, this guy's kind of cool. He made it as accessible as possible, and that's one of the ways. Yeah, people took notice.
Oh, let's go. Okay. Yeah, I work really hard on this. So I have a whole server set up and it has like announcements areas and like class discussion for like on topic stuff. And there's like off topic areas like memes and whatever. And then
Class
there's,
teams.
yeah, I've made a couple like reaction GIFs that like I custom made in Photoshop and like uploaded them for students to use. And there's class meeting rooms and stuff. So all this to say is there's no video. So students don't have to come in and like try to look interested, you know, for an hour or whatever.
Yeah.
And so you just mute everybody. And then if they have a question and they want to unmute, they can. Or we can hop into like a private room very easily and speak privately. If there's something like personal come up, very easy to just hop over, hop back. It's a lot easier than Zoom. So I don't have students share their screens. Like we preserve privacy. They can share their screen if they want, but they don't have to turn the webcam on ever. And then all my videos are recorded. So I'm not actually on mic speaking during class most of the time. I pre-record the lectures. They watch it at their own convenience. And then we use class time to answer questions. So what I do is I have like a one room where students are waiting and they'll watch videos, they'll do homework, whatever they want to do in their own time. And then if someone has a question, then I'll speak to the classroom and say, hey, a person has asked about this topic. So if you are interested in hearing the presentation addressing this topic, we're going to be in this other. So I have a classroom and then I have like office hours. And so we go from the classroom to the office hours. And so, you know, like a third of the class or something will come with me into the other room. I'll show my screen, work through an example problem, my writing tablet. Hopefully I don't fall out of my chair. So far, so good on that, except for now. So it allows us to have a very different classroom experience than they might have had.
Wow. Dude, you got to be on the news or something. You got to write a paper on this.
I mean, I might. In fact, I did. Not the published kind, though. I wrote a report. So I was actually, my first semester in the March last year, I did my lectures streamed on Twitch.
What? I heard about
and
that.
so, yeah, so it was conspicuous. It got a lot of attention. Some of it was positive, but not all. And people were like, I can't believe he's streaming. And I was like, this is what it's for.
Yeah.
Just because people are usually streaming Fortnite and like dancing on people, like that's not all this platform can do. And so that was my argument with Twitch as well. I mean, with Discord as well. It's like, yeah, historically it's for gamers. It is. That's how I learned it. I was involved as in a competitive gaming team at Alabama. And I used Discord. I built a server I asked other people to build a server. I didn't know how to do it. I asked other people to build a server for our team. And at one point it had like 700 members in it. And it's shrunk in the meantime, unfortunately, but I'm not there anymore. So anyway, all this to say is, sure, that's how I learned it. But why should that be its only purpose? I think this is good. And there are pedagogical reasons. And I defended them in a video at the beginning of the semester. Like, this is why we're doing it this way. The discomfort for students is pronounced at first, that it's unfamiliar to a lot of students. And there definitely is the growing pains. There's a learning curve because it works differently than anything they've ever used. Yeah. And so that has some pain. And I'm getting better at helping them grow accustomed to it. But it has its values, and students, especially the students that already know it, love it.
Damn, dude, you need like a 12-hour episode.
So all this to say is I wrote a report because someone was like, hey, Twitch isn't working, or Discord's not, or something's not working. I forget what it was. I think it was Twitch. Twitch isn't working on my computer. It was a browser compatibility issue. They went to the help desk. Help desk was like, we have no idea what this is. And that got up to like the provost. So when my boss's boss is like, what is this software? I was like, oh shit.
What is this thing your student can't access?
Yeah. And so the Dean Bedell was basically like, hey, I know no one was planning for this. You're doing the best you can. I love that you're trying something new. And even if it didn't work, that's fine, because we're going to learn from it. Right, Rob? I was like, yep. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
And so he said, okay, here's what I want you to do. Write a report and tell me what you did, why you did it, and what you learned from it.
Oh, wow.
And so I was like, if that keeps me from getting fired, you better believe I'm writing you a good report. And so, because at the time, I was like, okay, it's a bit of a controversial pick, but I didn't think like I'd get that much attention. So it was hotter take than I thought it was. But he was happy. That report got distributed to the entire college. And so it was a report on Twitch, Open Broadcaster Software, and Discord. And so I use OBS to film my videos. I have like a streaming platform thing, which actually I can quickly, they've updated OBS recently, and it now has a virtual camera.
I don't understand what that is. What's the difference?
I'm hoping I can show you. I had it set up before.
Basically,
so
like
when I'm teaching, my power supply on my computer died the other day, and I've just replaced it yesterday. I mentioned it to you in an email. And so my settings are messed up. Let me fix it quickly. The webcam has to be reactivated. Oh, I can't use it because Zoom is using it right now. Okay, well, here's what I can do. You won't see me in the frame because my camera is frozen, but I will change my video to the virtual camera. And so you see how there is a frame. And then if I open PowerPoint, then I can full screen my PowerPoint presentation. And
that's cool.
So when the camera is actually active, I'm there. But of course, Zoom is using it. So then I can pull out a laser pointer and.
So like, do you green screen yourself into like that bottom left corner?
I actually don't green screen. I've had trouble. My lighting isn't good enough. I bought a green screen and it doesn't really work very well. So I just leave the camera running. But so you get the idea that I can. I built this frame. So it's, you see the PowerPoint slide speaks for itself, but then I have like this banner at the top and then like the Northeastern logo. I took that and like photoshopped it to fit the frame, and I added the text blocks below it and the AACSB accreditation things. And there's also like a calculator integration and all kinds of these other cool things that I can do in OBS that other people would have no idea about. The only problem is that I have apparently, by telling them all the cool things that it can do, I have intimidated people about the learning curve, which is really a shame because I can make a zip file and send it to them with it all built.
What?
And just like all the pictures are included, all the scenes, so you can change back and forth from like, this is my filmings, this is like lectures, this is like if I'm doing talking about something on D2L, I've got a scene for that, and I can build it all out for them and just send it to them. And I had one person reach out to me and be like, that sounds really cool. I'm going to try that later.
Oh, one other professor?
Yeah. And so far, and I've tried to tell other people about it too. I'm like, this is free, guys. Like, people are out here spending money on Screencast-O-Matic. And I'm like, this is so much better and it's free. But
I mean, all I can say is, wow,
it's a learning curve. So
that's impressive.
It's cool. It's a really cool software, but I should probably let you go so that you can get ready for your next interview.
Yeah, dude, I actually got to prep for the next one. Garo.
You can have him say it. You can tell him that.
Introduce yourself.
I tried to get his name right. You can tell him that.
All right, for sure. Dr. Rob Cook, Northeastern Illinois University. I go there. He teaches there. It's a pretty good school. It's not wildly expensive. It's a smaller school, but it's still a good amount of people there.
Yeah. So I like to tell people two things, if I can interject here. So one is we feel like a small school, but we're not a small school. We have about 8,800 students, which is far more than it feels like to me anyway. To put that in perspective, the University of Alabama has 31,000 last I checked. So we are almost a full fourth of one of the biggest schools in the country. So to me, like small schools, like 2,000-3,000, and we're 4 times that. Yes. So we're pretty big. The other thing that I'll say is that I don't remember the exact number. I think it's 4th. I could be making that up, but we're definitely top 10 on the education quality value
list.
So we are, I believe, the cheapest institution that's accredited in the state of Illinois, and we are one of the best college experiences for the money in the entire country.
That I can definitely agree with. I have had a great time at Northeastern.
Yeah. And I'll tell anybody who will listen, I love it here. I think we do the best we can for our students. There's always room to grow, but we do our best. And I love the people that I work with, and that's irreplaceable to me. So
Plus, if you join College of Business and Tech, you get like one of the coolest teams out there. Like, let's be real.
yeah, definitely. Yeah. Well, I appreciate you having me on. It's been a lot of fun. And, if you ever need you need a guest, a repeat guest.
Oh yeah, for
let
sure.
me know.
It sounds like you didn't get through all your stories.
Oh, I learned a lot from my dad, including how to talk. So it's getting me to shut up once in a while. That's a trick, if I can quote Shrek. So,
Onion.
it talks. Yeah, it's getting them to shut up once in a while. That's the trick.
It's funny.
Hi, princess. That's my best Eddie Murphy. It's not very good. I'm sorry. I'll work on it.
Not that good. No, all right. Take it easy, bud.
Yeah. Thanks, Angel. I appreciate it.
All right, bye.
Take care.